Hello and welcome to episode 143 of the Arena Regulars podcast. I'm Zach,
And I'm Jeff.
and we're a source for Drunken Magic the Gathering arena content.
That's right, just a couple of regular dudes drinking some irregular beers and talking about Magic the Gathering, in particular, the online client MTG Arena.
And today it's all about the Magic story. This new set, Murders at Karlov Manor, is all about murder mystery. So we are going to unravel that for you right here, right now, and give you all the juicy bits that you haven't heard from the debut video that came out last week. But
There's a
Jeff,
lot of them.
yeah, there are a lot. We will get right into that. But normally with our Drunken Vorthos episodes, we were doing our Silver series. But Jeff, we're moving into a new age with our Drunken Vorthos.
Yeah.
Tell us what we got going on tonight. What is on tap?
Well, the Silver Series concluded with the grand champion Hackershore Keller Beer.
Hmm.
And so the fitting successor to the Silver Series throne would, of course, be Hackershore. So Hacker Shore is the brewery. They make more than one beer. So we
Huh.
chose their Keller beer as the winner, but they also just have a Munich lager, which may have been a more fair comparison to put it
Hmm.
into our Silver Series. But nevertheless, we didn't do that. And now we're going to try just their sort of more run of the mill, just a lager. It's called the Munchner Gold.
Hmm. Yeah, so their Keller beer is an unfiltered lager, which
Yeah.
gave the beer a little bit more of body, a little bit more flavor. That's probably why we picked it. But anyway, with that, Jeff, let's get this cracking. This is also an old beer. It's from 1417. Crazy
Wow.
how old this freaking thing is. Um, it's 5.5%.
Surprised they had this kind of canning technology back then.
Yeah, right. This specific beer was from them. Um, but anyway, Jeff, so we're talking about the story today. Um, it's going to be a little bit different. So normally with the stories, uh, since we've been doing the podcast, they basically have 5 chapters of the main story and then 5 chapters of the side story. At Lost Caverns of Ixalan, they did like 6 chapters of the main story and then 1 chapter of side stories. But this time around, it's just 10 main story chapters. And this is more than we've ever done before.
Yeah.
And so,
These always go long with 5 stories,
yeah,
so
so
we're gonna have to hustle.
we're going to try to hustle through this one just so we can get everything out. But nevertheless, I know that Jeff he's gonna have something up his sleeve just to try to throw me off track as he usually does whenever we do things like this.
Hey, it's a gift. I don't have anything prepared. I just seize opportunities when they arise.
I know, it's so frustrating. But anyway, let's get into it. So this is the story of Murders at Karlov Manor by Shannon McGuire. I believe it's pronounced Shannon, but I could be mistaken. But let's just jump into it. Episode number 1, Ghosts of Our Past. So the story is set on Ravnica, which we know is the plane of like cities all over the place. It's 10 different guilds, one for each color pair. And we are right in the middle of Teysa Karlov's party. She's basically throwing a party for like every guild. And Teysa Karlov is like the head of the Orzhov Syndicate, which is the white and black aligned guild. And
Yeah.
this is basically what I can kind of tell. This the party is just for like a hey, let's come back together. We're done with the Phyrexian invasion, and let's rebuild and regroup as Ravnica, make it whole. I guess.
Yeah, essentially. It's like all the guilds are explicitly invited, which
Yes.
they do sort of make clear is weird.
Weird.
Like there's not usually an Orzhov party would be an Orzhov party kind of thing, and like to invite all of the guilds is particular, but yeah, probably just hey, we beat the Phyrexians, let's have a party.
Hooray! Also, it seems as though the only 2 guilds that aren't present are the Demir, which kind of makes sense. They're all like introverted and they live in the shadows and stuff.
Hmm.
And the Golgari are also not present, though they were invited. Um, but everybody
Not
else
too
is there.
fond of sunlight.
Yes. And they all kind of stay into their little cliques. So the Celestia stay with the Celestia, the Izzet with the Izzet, yada, yada, yada. And Kaya is there because Kaya has come back. She was originally, before the actual faction invasion happened, Kaya was the head of the Orzhov Syndicate, and Teysa usurped her while everything was going on, which is very normal for the Orzhov. There always seems to be somebody trying to steal the thrones from somebody else. I guess
Yeah,
that's also kind of what happens in Ravnica in general. Just people
it's
decide.
so normal that like Kaya's card when she was the head of the Orzhov is called Kaya Orzhov Usurper.
Yeah.
So
Because
that's just how
she,
it works.
well, also, so Kaya is a ghost assassin, so she fucking killed Tasa's like grandfather or something who was a ghost,
Yeah.
and then she became the person. So her and Tasa have like kind of a troubled relationship, but they are technically friends. I don't really know, um, but it seems to be a little. They kind of grind each other's gears, and specifically, Tasa does not want to let Kaya out of her sight.
Yeah, but also wanted her there for some reason. I don't totally remember the motivation, if it was spelled out or if it was just implied why Tasa's throwing this party, but
Well, there's some kind of political things going on where Taysa wants to show everyone that she is fantastic and that she is right for Ravnica because she was here during the invasion. Kaya, most very notably and very important to the story, was not. Kaya was off
yeah,
on Phyrexia, New Phyrexia, trying to defeat everyone. But the main tension
failing.
between, yeah, failing, the main tension between her and Teysa is that, and Ravnica. Ravnica tends to not really like planeswalkers because a lot of shit happens around planeswalkers and they don't like that. Um, there was
Yeah,
the War of the Spark,
Ravnica's been super influenced by planeswalkers.
and
Just being the most popular plane,
yeah,
it's been revisited often.
hmm
Like
like
Jace has been the guild pact.
yeah,
Vraska was a guild leader. Ralzeric's a guild leader.
Kaya is a
Kaya was
kid.
a guild leader.
Yeah,
Like
just
they're just like, you know what, planeswalkers, just fuck off.
yeah, you guys
Right?
always meddle with our shit. And Taysa likes to bring this up to Kaya consistently. And I think of the entire story, this beginning bit is one of my favorite parts. Is just their interactions of all of the actual human feelings between like, we have a history and you weren't fucking there to help us. Like you said that you were going to lead our guild and you were like you took it over and you did all this stuff and you weren't even here to defend us during this invasion. That's just like bonkers. Like what are you even doing? Like
Yeah,
don't try to be like upset or butthurt that like I took over because I'm much better at dealing with the Orzov than you are because you don't even care. You're just gone. I
yeah,
think all of that stuff is valid.
totally. And there's a big, through line of like you owe the Orzhov a debt. The
Yeah.
Orzhov are huge on debts, and
Yeah.
even dying doesn't get you out of it. And so she's basically saying, "Hey, man, like you took control of the guild and then you left, and then when we
hmm
were invaded, you didn't come back.
You
So
did not.
you kind of owe us one."
hmm So throughout the kind of festivities and all this stuff, Taysa really, really wants to talk to Kai about something in private. It's really important that it is in private and not around other people. That could be a reason why they stay so close together. Also, through this, we meet a bunch of characters. We meet like Krenko and Aurelia's there.
It's the classic like introduce you to the potential suspects
Yeah.
of the murder mystery.
We do meet Kellen, who is there, who is now a detective.
He
And
was my
he's
prime suspect personally.
Yeah. Well, I mean, he's kind of shady. He's all over the place. What is this
Yeah.
guy doing? Just popped around. Um, but
And what happened to Amalia? Did she really go off to the Gruul territories to investigate?
yeah, so basically, Kellen is there, and Kaya's like, "Oh, why are you here? Did you have any friends that traveled with you?" This is obviously just a line for us. Like it's so obvious.
This is
Um,
obviously a what happened to Amalia
and he's like, "Oh,
line.
well, I couldn't keep her down. She was too excited to go explore something else."
I
And so
think
it's
this
like,
is something in the a cave in the Rubble Belt or something.
yeah,
She likes
exactly.
caves, and
Yeah,
Rubble
she
Belt is
she
Gruul territory.
loves them caves. So she's gone and just doesn't matter anymore. And she was the main character from our last story, so whatever.
And it seemed like they were like in love and running off together.
Yeah,
So,
and then so we
anyways,
also don't know
it
how long Kellen has been here, which is the beginning of our like.
seems like a while.
It must be at least like a few months, right? Because he is well entrenched. He's like an intern for the like detective agency on Ravnica, which we've never heard of before, but is a thing now. Um, so I don't know, 6 months, like a year. How long is he? How long has it been since Lost Caverns of Ixalan? I have no idea. Um, but that's just a thing. If you're wondering, oh wow, Kellen really seems to have a bunch of stuff going on. He's like a different color of magic now. I
Yeah,
think he's been here for a while because he
yeah,
feels like
and
he,
he knows a lot about Ravnica, just like in the conversations they have.
yeah. So maybe he's
Like
not even,
Kyle will be asking him stuff
yeah,
because
which
he's been
is
there more recently than her.
so like I don't even know if he's technically an intern. Maybe he's literally he's just an actual detective, like a junior detective. But he
Yeah,
he must be there for like a year or
yeah.
more. So that's kind of where we are at. That's how time jumpy we've been with Kellen. It's kind of we know we're gonna keep seeing him in the future. There's like a whole arc. So like
And I don't think anybody commented on him as being a boy this time.
that's true. And
And so
he was
last time everyone was like, "Oh, some boy appeared."
yeah. And so now he's just a detective. I know. I
Yeah,
consider him significantly less annoying than last time or the last few
yeah,
times that we saw him. So that's a plus.
with a couple exceptions that I'll bring up at some
Well,
point.
I mean, he is a blue-green card, so he's still annoying, but
It's even
not
more annoying. What are you talking about? You saying you
uh
prefer the Cynic to the Celestia?
what is this? No, absolutely not. But anyway, so we finish our chapter with Kaya and Tessa are talking on a balcony, and all of a sudden we just hear a scream, and we know something has happened.
Yeah.
We're in a murder mystery party. Now, we go into episode number 2, which is Monsters We Became, and we start right off immediately going into the room where our story spotlight number 1 happens. Jeff, what's our first card?
Uh oh, interesting. It's murder.
Murder. Wow, we got a reprint of Murder into limited. Love it. Um, and who's depicted on our card? Who's our first or
That would be
our death?
Prime Speaker Zagana. Although
Mm,
she's not the Prime Speaker anymore, I guess. But
she's not.
her card that I know her from was called Prime Speaker Zagana. So
At one point, she was, yes. Now, Vanifar is the prime speaker of the Simic Combine, I believe.
mhm.
And so it's a whole hullabaloo. It's also very specific that, like, she died kind of looking, she looks kind of like a picture. I don't know. She's placed very
Right.
specifically. Where
Yeah, I don't want to
there's,
say like ritualistic per se, but like there was thought to
yeah.
whoever killed her, there was thought put into how she would be displayed.
Mhm. So we are all. She also died in the coat room, by the way. So you know the
Yep.
one where you just walk in and throw your coats on the bed. This is where she died, which kind of sucks.
Yeah,
Um,
it's a real bummer.
yeah, real bummer. Also, people probably got blood on
I
their
mean, did she
coats.
die there? Was she like moved there?
Oh,
Did
okay,
she walk full on into the coat room and then the assassin was like, ha, gotcha.
perfect.
I knew you would be wearing a coat.
I guess no, that kind of makes sense. Like you kill them somewhere else, put them in the coat room, so someone will find them at some point, but hopefully towards the end of the night. That does
Yeah.
kind of make sense. Um, but
You'd have to be
anyway,
pretty good at, not leaving any trails of blood, so to speak. So
yeah. Which apparently are
seems like it was the work of a professional. That's all I'm saying.
well, that does immediately lead us to story spotlight number 2, which is officious interrogation, which is like one in a blue for an instant. You basically get to investigate for the number of creatures your opponent controls. Um, so this is immediately afterwards. The Azorius are the police of the plane, and they have decided that they need to interrogate everyone, which, duh. It was somebody in the house did this, so let's talk to everybody. Um, Jeff, did you know about these veridity circles or Verity circles. Like I think that's how
No,
you.
this was the first time I've heard of the Verity circles.
Now I knew that there was a card called this, but I didn't really know what it did.
Oh, okay. So
Like
this isn't just made up for this story. I assumed
no,
they just made this up for this story.
there was a card like in Guilds of Ravnica or something that was a Verity Circle or Ravnica Allegiance, and it would like it was an enchantment, and it would like you could tap your opponent's creatures, and when your opponent's creatures were
Oh
tapped, you
yeah.
gain stuff. Or it wasn't very good, so that's why you don't remember it. But um,
Whenever a creature an opponent controls becomes tapped, if it isn't being declared as an attacker, you may draw
yeah,
a
so like you
Ooh,
have to.
combos with tappers.
Yeah,
Yeah.
basically, it should have been in like the bonus sheet for Wilds of Eldraine, and I that's a horrible miss on their part. But
Yeah.
anyway, it was not very good. So this is
I
what
mean,
it
there must
does.
have been a mechanic that tapped, right?
Yes,
There must have been mechanics in that set that like you would tap rather than
yeah, there's always something. But
yeah,
anyway,
yeah.
it doesn't matter. But the actual Verity Circle, what it does is it forces your the people inside of it to tell the truth. They can only speak the truth, and so you could literally just it's the
They
easiest
they
fucking
know
police
that from
work.
the card that I just read because the flavor design was perfect.
Yeah, well,
You just get that right away.
I just want to say that like the Azorius are the laziest fucking police ever. It's so easy. You just walk around, you cast a spell, and you just ask like, "Did you do it?" And they say no, and you're like, "Okay, next person. Did you do it?" No, and then they literally do that, and they're like, "Well, nobody did it. Like, I, nobody confessed." And so then
It's suicide, folks. We're going home.
yeah, basically Zagana killed herself in the coat room. And I think this is crazy because like throughout the story we constantly are talking about whether this magic actually works or not. And I think it's totally valid to be like questioning these basically the police being like, I I don't know if we should are these good still? It kind of seems a little lazy and it just doesn't seem great.
It should
It's
be a tool in your arsenal, but
mhm.
maybe there should be some other tools in there as
Exactly.
well.
Well, luckily we do have another tool because in walks story spotlight number 3, Jeff.
Uh, Story spotlight number three is Auspicious Arrival, and this is Alquist Proft, the Sherlock Holmes of our story. Um, just waltzes on in.
Mhm. Yeah, he walks it right in, and at instant speed, he gives us +2/+2, and he investigates, which is amazing. Um, but he is our like ace in
Decent.
the hole.
Yep.
He's our detective for the entire story, and of course, he immediately walks in and sees that Sagana is laid in a specific way, and can tell that there's all of the guild signs are like or crests, I guess. I don't really know. But they're all displayed in the way that she's laying. It's like someone's belt is wrapped around something that looks like the Golgari, whatever. And then this thing looks like a different whatever.
Yeah.
So like everyone else is like, wow, this guy's amazing. It's crazy. I never would have seen that ever. So we
And
know,
she's like pointing to Demir or something like
oh,
that.
right, right. She's pointing to Demir, which is obviously uh, a big sign. And they're like, well, the Demir aren't here. It can't be them. But our detective, he's a smart one. Jeff,
So
what does
I
he
just
do?
got to interject
Yeah,
here.
tell us.
How could this possibly happen? So the implication here that all of the 10 guild signs are showing in the coats that she died on, and she's pointing to Demir, is that the killer would have to have set that up.
Yes.
Or, like, at first I was thinking she happened to land on a coat that had the Demir sigil, and so as she's dying, she's like, Demir,
Pointing.
Demir, like to give the clue to people that it was a Demir. But the fact that the way they describe it is like every symbol was an option for her, and it's not just a symbol on somebody's code, it's like
It's
made
their.
out of other thing. Like it was put in a specific way to look like the Golgari. But well, when we find out, who did it and why and stuff, it's like But why would they have ever done
I
this?
guess
Like,
this is very interesting because I read the story without knowing, and then Jeff read it after knowing.
yeah,
Because at spoiler alert, the debut video told us what happened. We're
yes,
not going to tell you right now because we're going to wait till the end. But you probably already know if you've looked
yeah,
at any of the cards, you already know.
yeah. If you've looked
Um,
at certain cards, but like,
so
there's just no reason for the killer to rearrange these codes to show all the symbols and then have her point to Demir.
it we'll, let's come back to
Okay,
this.
all right.
Um, because there's a possibility that could make sense. So
I know. I think I know what you're gonna say, and I
yeah,
still
yeah.
find
Well,
it a stretch.
okay. Well, it is, but like I don't think it's not that much of a stretch. But
All right.
um,
That just doesn't
anyway,
happen with any of the other birds.
so Alquist Proft goes in. He does all his detective work, and he figures out, oh, we need to find somebody. He looks around the room, and of course, he's like, what was that show? It was there's a TV show where there's a guy who is a psychic. It was called Psych. It was literally called Psych. Okay.
Mhm.
Where he's like a psychic, but not really. He could just like look around the room and he does like Sherlock Holmes stuff, but like pretends that he's actually psychic. Um, that's basically what Proft does
There are a
right
lot,
now.
lot of different takes on Sherlock Holmes. Yeah.
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 This was a TV show in the early 2000s.
Gotcha.
Anyway,
One's a fake psychic, one's a doctor, one's a
yeah,
detective. You know,
basically.
you can just rehash it. It's always great.
Yeah. People that are really smart and then later get to explain to you why they're really smart and why you didn't figure it out. It's always fun.
Yeah.
Um, but anyway, so Proft gets to look around and see, wow, all the Verity circles, they seem to have like all of the is it or in this one, everyone stays kind of together. And all of a sudden, the Celestia are over here, but this one member of Celestia is over here, and that's kind of weird. I bet that's a fucking imposter.
I bet that's a Demir masquerading as a Celestia.
So that brings us to story spotlight number 4: expose the culprit, which is one in red. It cares about face down creatures and turning them face up and turning them back face down.
It's
um
my favorite part of all Sherlock Holmes deductions is you can always like break them down, and some of the logical jumps are great, and then at least a few of them are like, come on,
Come
like
on,
there's not enough there.
that's
That's a
magic.
huge guess.
Mhm.
Like,
um so anyway, basically Prof points at the Celestia chick and he's like, you, I don't really know what he said, but he said,
you are
you.
a Demir assassin. She's like, I'm sorry, I'm just antisocial.
Yeah, so she basically immediately bursts into like she it's like a magic disguise. It's not necessarily that she like I'm kind of confused. So the cards make it look like she was using some sort of spell to look like a Celestia person. But
Mhm.
in the story, they kind of mentioned like, I wonder what happened to the person, the poor person that had to like lose their clothes to her or something. I think that happened. Like,
Yeah, yeah, she was definitely just legit wearing a Celestia robe in the story,
but like all the cards make it look like
with like a hood to cover her face because she's famous.
right. Yeah, she's a famous assassin. This is so stupid. So this is it's Atrada. We all know Atrada. She's a legendary assassin for Demir. She has cards. Obviously, this is fine, but it's crazy that like we as the players can know an assassin. The people in Ravnica should not know famous assassins. Like that's
Yeah,
not
it's like knowing the identity of a serial killer instead of just like, oh, there's a serial killer, they go by the whatever slaughterer.
yeah.
No one knows who it is. It's just like, no, that's Phil.
And
Ah, fucking Phil did it
yeah, and
again.
we invited him to the party and all this
Yeah,
stuff. He
like,
decided not to come, but he dressed up like somebody else so he could come and kill somebody, you know, like
yeah.
it's just,
Yeah, he got us
yeah,
again.
ah, damn
Yeah.
it. Oh.
It's like just arrest them if they're a
Yeah.
well-known famous assassin.
But like most of the time the Demir can come in, murder, and then leave and like no one will know anything about it. While uh obviously they were trying to leave. Once Taysa figured out that there was something going on, she like put a bunch of spells around so nobody could enter or exit. Though Proft entered somehow, but whatever. Um I think he might have been at the party and we just didn't see him.
Yeah.
Anyway, she starts running. So then we get because Proft obviously wants to arrest Atrada, and Kaya and Kellen are also on the case. So that brings us to story spotlight number 5. Jeff, what is it?
Sure strike, but with investigate.
Yes. So we have a sure strike and investigate is the chase is on. And basically, Kaya is running after her. Proft is in the back, and Kellen's by Kaya at some point. And basically, they're deciding that they have to get her before she gets into the labyrinth or the maze or whatever. But all of a sudden, Proft, Jeff, what is Proft's weird powers? Like he's magical, but this is the
Yeah,
first time we see it.
he can basically like summon an illusion of any place he's been to. So what he does here is he summons an illusion of a back alleyway in the Orzhov district that Kaya would know, but Etrata would be less likely to know. So they both like kind of Etrata kind of stops for a second. It's like, well, what just happened? All right, I'm in an alleyway. I'm good. But then Kaya's like, I know this alleyway. I know it like the back of my hand, and she just turned down a dead end. And like
Mm-hmm.
that's she's able to catch up to her. But I think it's not real. I think if Etrata had like tried to run through the wall, she would have been
She would have
okay.
been fine. Like it's just because when we're first presented with it, it seems like the entire world just changes, and now we're in a new place.
Right. I
But
thought they were teleported or something at first.
and it's not super clear. We know that Proft is doing it, but like later on when he uses his power again, it seems much less powerful as it does right now. Right now, it seems like the most busted power ever.
Yeah.
So you're like, whoa! You just like it's basically like
This guy's
um
just a detective? Like,
yeah,
come on.
it's kind of like Amalia again, where she like rewrites the map of the world.
Oh yeah, it's outrageously powerful
Yeah,
ability.
but
Everyone's just
like
like, huh, that's pretty cool. All right, use your map spell,
yeah,
map person.
do the map thing again. Dig a big trench.
Yeah.
This is kind of like
You're
that,
like,
except for
yay.
like it's much better and faster, and you don't have to use blood or whatever.
Yeah,
Does she have to write with blood? It doesn't matter. Let's not get on that, but
I think she
um,
did.
something like that. She's a vampire.
Yeah.
Um, Anyway, so we do end up catching Atrada, and we get to put her in custody with the Azorius, which is what they do. That's their job.
Well, so she runs down the alleyway that is a dead end, and Kaya chases her, but she's like, I'm screwed, and just keeps running, and she slams into Kellen, and Kellen like throws his arms around her and catches her. So technically, Kellen caught her.
Oh yes, yeah. We have to give props to Kellen whenever we
Yeah,
can
yeah,
because
yeah.
otherwise he's just fucking useless.
It's just
Um,
important that he was there.
right? Yes, because
Yep.
he is our little buddy.
Yep.
We're going straight into episode number 3, Shadows of Regret. So we kind of come back to like the detective office. A character we didn't mention earlier is Ezram,
Mhm.
who is like the lead detective, and he's an Archon, which is like a dude on a big
Steed.
steed, I guess. Um, his office happens to be like basically like half barn, half
Yeah.
office.
Because, he's half man and half like I don't know, griffin or I
I
don't
don't
know,
know.
these things. You have to see a picture of them to understand like a Ravnica,
Yeah,
like what these things look like.
you just
Archon, but
like go look at his card. You've seen Archons before, but like anyway, there's a through line through the entire story of like how did he fit through these places because he's so huge
I think
and
that's
he's always
mostly
just
just like
around.
the artists or the author's musings about Ravnik and Archons. Like,
Yeah,
how do they work?
how does this even
Are they two
happen?
separate entities? Are they one entity? And
Yeah,
so she writes a lot of that
and
in.
she just like thinks about it a lot. Like, oh, does he
Yeah.
get off of the steed or like
Yeah.
there's a pillow for him, but
Can he
hey,
get off of the
yeah, that
steed?
that happens to be a lot of conversation, and Kaya thinks about it a lot too. So
Right. So I think it's
obviously
literally just the author was like given this card or like several
this
cards about
thing
Archons,
and be
and
like,
they were like, how does this work? Is this
mm-hmm,
one? And then just like, I'm just gonna write that in. And
we'll
I'm
just
gonna
do
make
it.
it canon that they're like two separate entities.
Yeah, which basically, yeah, that's what's happened. Um, but basically, we kind of split up now. So we have Proft who wants to go talk to Atrada, who is in jail, and then Kaya and Kellen are kind of together at this moment. Proft goes away, and he is in the Azorius jail place talking to
Yes, by
Atrada.
the way, the Azorius took Katrata and put her in jail.
Yes, very
Here we are.
important. Um, so he goes to question her, as he would do. And as he's talking to her, we get story spotlight number 6, which it doesn't add up, which is 3 black black, and it's a reanimate, and you suspect you're a reanimated creature at instant speed, I might have to say. Um, pretty cool. But anyway, it seems like Etrata has no memory of committing this murder. She is basically sure she did it, but she cannot remember going to the party, doing it, or she basically just remembers like being in her room and then basically being captured, and that's all she can remember. Which is odd. Uh, it's
Yeah,
not.
she's a professional.
Yeah, she's a professional. She remembers every murder, right? So she's
And
like,
Croft
I
was already a bit like, because like if because she's so good at what she does, she could have easily killed Zagan and gotten out of there with more than enough time to
before
not be
all
caught.
the
Instead, she was like milling about in Celestia robes and avoiding Verity circles and stuff. So he was like, this doesn't add up with
mm,
a highly like skilled killer and trained and like professional killer doing this job.
yeah. Well, the other thing is that she didn't even avoid the Verity Circle. She was in it, and she
Oh,
said
right.
no. She said no,
Yeah.
I didn't kill them because she didn't remember.
Hmm.
And so she had, because she was in this weird state and didn't know anything, it didn't pick up, and that's why they're like, wow, those Verity Circles are pretty fucked up,
Pretty shit.
pretty shit. Um, so are the cops even doing anything in Ravnica? Who knows? Um, makes you look at Lavinia a little bit differently now.
Lavinia,
But
you suck.
you suck. But anyway, so he's now kind of siding with her, being like, wow, I do believe that you would be able to kill somebody and get away immediately without a trace. This is weird. Something's weird. It's
Yeah.
all weird. Also because Atrada's like, yeah, I would have killed her. If someone paid me, I would have fucking killed her. I don't give a shit.
Yeah.
I would have been so good at it too, but I definitely don't remember doing this, so I
Someone had paid
would.
me to kill her, I wouldn't be here right now. I can tell you that.
Exactly. Yeah. And hey, yeah, maybe that's a good technique if you ever kill somebody. Be like, I trust me, I would have done a very good job. This was
Yeah.
sloppy.
Yeah.
Uh,
Are you kidding? I am
yeah.
offended right now that you are accusing me of this pathetic crime.
I would have done such a better job. I would have
Here's
been
what I would have
so
done
good.
differently.
Yeah, this. I wouldn't have left all these blood droppings everywhere. I wouldn't have arranged the coats in any sort of way. I
Yeah.
wouldn't have pointed her at my guild sigil. That's really stupid. Why would
Yeah,
you
that
do
was
that?
unwise. That was unwise.
um, but we go back to Teysa and Kellen essentially, and Teysa gets like what does she get, a note or something from somebody? It's like for some reason she knows she needs to talk to Teysa. I can't remember why.
Oh yeah, it's like they have these like messenger
It's just a
guys.
guy. It's not
Yeah.
like an owl or anything like in Harry Potter.
No, no, it's just a guy who runs
Okay.
up, and
Wow.
I think she even tips him. Yeah.
You know what sucks is that would be my job if I was on Ravnica. I would be like, I'd be guildless, and I would just be
I'd be
bringing messages.
inter guild messenger. I'm
Yeah,
getting closer to the guilds now, Zach.
yeah. I'm basically like a 0-0 that gets a +0/+1 counter.
Yeah.
That would be my card if I was in Ravnica. Um, anyway, Teysa urgently needs to talk to Kaya. Um, so obviously Kaya runs over to see exactly what's going on. And well, Jeff, what is going on over there?
Unfortunately, there was a deadly complication.
Oh no.
Story spotlight number 7. Choose one or both, destroy target creature, or put a +1/+1 counter on target suspected creature you control. You may have it become no longer suspected. For
Hmm.
1 black red. Yeah, Teysa is dead. She was basically stabbed. So
Hmm.
when Kaya gets there, all of Teysa's servants have been dismissed. She suspects this is because Teysa told her she wants to talk about something that is super private and she wouldn't want anyone to overhear it. So she probably dismissed her staff. Uh, and so Kaya walks in And then yeah, Tasa's just dead. She's been stabbed, and she does find a note. Finds a note that was very clearly in Tasa's handwriting, but she couldn't read it because it was in Phyrexian.
What the
Dun
fuck?
dun
So
dun.
this was when I was like, God damn it, are there Phyrexians in this story again?
Yeah,
I
Jesus.
love the Phyrexians. I really liked having them for the time we had them. I'm so over them now.
The killer is Emrakul. They learned Phyrexian.
But it's like, okay, so now we're trying to figure out why was Teysa writing in Phyrexian? Also, my question is, how can you tell that it was her handwriting? That doesn't make any sense.
They
Why?
give like a couple lines, like there's a characteristic smudge under each letter. So the author says something like that. It wasn't super convincing,
Well,
but
obviously it doesn't make any sense though, because like writing like we do goes like this, but Phyrexian goes like this, and like I don't know. It just seems like it just. Sorry, I just showed like going horizontal and vertical. I'm
right,
just
yeah,
realizing that nobody on the podcast can understand
good
that, but
radio.
yeah, good radio right there. But like, I just it all Phyrexian always looks like Jeff. If you knew my handwriting really well, but then I wrote in a different alphabet that's not our alphabet, would you know it was my handwriting?
I don't know if I've ever experienced this, so I can't comment. My guess is no,
I'm assuming
but
no.
because like you wouldn't be proficient at writing the new letters, and so you wouldn't have the same like tendencies
Yeah,
built in from muscle memory that you
exactly.
like. Handwriting is essentially muscle memory, I think,
And like you look at
and
the
you
same
lose that.
characters.
Yeah,
Yeah. Like I know my dad's handwriting really well. If he started writing in Japanese or something,
it's a
I
lot of
would
faking his dad's signature in high school, you know.
but like I would not be able to tell. So I guess kudos to Kaya for like knowing the note was written by Tesa. It just seems it's extremely absurd that like she could figure that out. Um
Yeah, I mean they needed some way to sort of say Taysom
oh,
wrote
I
this note, I guess, but like, yeah, how do you do it? Unless it's like dash Taysa Karlov.
that's what I was gonna say. Just fucking do that at the bottom and be like, wait a second.
Yeah.
Like it's already like that would feel the same. Do you know what I mean? And
Yeah,
like
about as plausible.
because like
So
would she
she
write
signs it in English or whatever, but
yeah, she would sign it in English, but like also that would make sense. I'm not gonna write my name in a different characters, right? It's my name. My name looks like this, right? I could see
mm,
that making almost more sense.
I don't know. I've written my name in Cyrillic before when I was in
Oh,
Russia and I was writing in Cyrillic. And I learned how to write my name in the Cyrillic alphabet.
oh wait, all right. Well, there.
I do. I guess I do have some experience writing in a
Well,
different
there you go.
alphabet.
So like,
But I don't know.
um,
I didn't never ask anyone who knew my handwriting well, like give them a
is
bunch
it
of different
looks
Cyrillic writing. Which one's mine?
which was my
This is gonna be important in like 10
maybe
years.
you should try this now. Ask your wife to see if she can tell the difference.
Yeah.
But then you have to get a bunch of other people who know how to write in Cyrillic
I
to write.
know, is it right?
Whatever. That's
Yeah.
ridiculous. But anyway, Teysa is fucking dead. More on that later, but like,
I do want to read something though, and I want us to keep in mind who ends up killing her. But
mhm,
the flavor text on Deadly Complication is
okay.
Tesa's security was unrivaled. Etrata was locked up. Kaya was left with nothing but multiplying questions and a dead friend.
Ugh.
I don't know if her security was unrivaled based on how she ended up dying, but like I understand that she dismissed her staff to speak with Kaya, but still,
But still,
yeah.
um, there we'll get into that in a little bit. But anyway, let's go to episode number 4, Justice Before Mercy. Immediately starts us with a story spotlight. Number 8, Unauthorized Exit, which is 1 in a blue for an instant. Return target non-land permanent to its owner's hand, and you surveil 1. And we have Proft helping Atrada escape from prison. Um, Proft has now decided Atrada is completely innocent, even though she kills people for a living. He doesn't care about that. He knows that she is not part of this crime, except for the fact that she murdered He knows that she murdered Zagana, but he doesn't think it's her fault, which is
Right.
Wild.
And they
Um,
mentioned about 4 billion times that under Ravnican law, if you were like hypnotized into murdering
right.
someone, then you are not culpable.
Yeah. That is not true for our laws in Canada and the States. Charlie Manson did convince people to murder on his behalf. Everyone involved went to jail. So, um,
But there's
don't.
some stuff like if you have I forget the condition, but there's been like cases of people sleepwalk killing, um,
Oh, I haven't heard of
and like
sleepwalk
they
killing.
can prove that they were legitimately not conscious when it happened, and they
Interesting.
basically, I mean, it's similar to an insanity plea, I guess, but it's like,
I guess I could see that. I know
yeah,
that. I mean, the brainwashing of Charles Manson. It,
right.
it's
And if magic
it's a
were
whole thing.
involved, that's a whole other
That's
story. If
true.
someone's just like, bam, mind control,
Yeah, Eh, that's
feels like
true.
it shouldn't be your fault, but except for being a wimp who got mind controlled.
Exactly.
Yeah,
That's why you should have better mind traps to make
that's
sure that
right.
no one can get in your brain. Um,
Anyway, I was just noticing this is quite the fucking common, but
it is. Actually, there's a lot of sweet fucking bangers in this. We weren't reading all the cards before, but I think we're going to read all of them now.
yeah,
Um,
we're on the read train.
I
I
was
like it.
debating whether we wanted to read all of them or not, but now we're on the train. So,
Yeah, we'll just do a
um,
power read.
anyway, he decides he's going to run off with Etrata. We are going straight to the last place that she remembers being because we're going to do the retrace your steps type of situation, which happens to be her house. Um, so we
Yeah,
get to see into that. Um, we're going to pick up a little bit later, but just getting us into the house. Essentially, we go down like some sort of place. I don't know. It's a bunch of like Demir back streets, and she has to put in her code to go to Diagon Alley, which is where she lives. Which she just
yeah,
has to go up to a wall and like hit a bunch of bricks, and then the
yeah.
door opens for her.
Tap it with her umbrella
Yes,
in the right sequence.
in certain places, but also obviously make sure that Proft gets sees so she can get there in safely. Um, and we go into her bedroom. We'll get back to her bedroom in just a minute, but now we're going to jump back over to Kaya, who goes back to the detectives to be like, well, she doesn't want to give all the information right away. But I think this next story spotlight card is probably our worst one of all of them. It just doesn't really fit at all, and it just kind of sucks. So, Jeff, can you read this one for us?
I got it. So this is on the job. 2 white instant creatures you control get +2/+1 until end of turn. Investigate. Following the trend of like a bunch of comments we've seen before with investigate stapled to it. It shows Kaya, Kellen, and Argus, the ghost of Argus Kos, Agris Kos, walking side by side, the team ready to take down this murder investigation. For all their differences, Kaya, Kellen, and Agris Kos agreed on one thing. None of them would rest until Tasa's murderer was brought to justice. I don't know,
Now,
Zach. That's pretty awesome. Like,
I just want to say
tells quite
that,
the tale.
yeah, that's not what happens in the story. It's literally like Kaya and Kellen are like teaming up to be buddies, and Argus Koss is just there, and he's kind of like, yeah, I'm working over here now.
He's like,
Um,
Aurelia made me come here,
yeah,
basically. And they're
I
like, okay, cool. Why do I care? Like,
he's like, I don't really want to do this with you, and I don't like you that much anyway.
yeah.
I got my own shit to do, so you guys, peace. And so the card doesn't make any sense to me. And the picture just looks like they're all best friends, and then Kellen is in charge.
Yeah.
Kellen's not in charge. Kaya is in charge the whole time. So this is
This
just,
is a hilarious card. After
yeah,
reading the story, I'm just like, this scene never happened.
mm-mm, it does not. Um, but they are on their way to see Judith in the Rakdos cult. Um, we just basically run over there, and Kaya has this interesting interaction with the doorman. Do you remember this? So she's going into. I thought this was hilarious, but like she's going to get into the Rakdos cult, and the doorman is basically asking for what the password
Oh
is or
yes,
something,
yes, I do remember that. And he
and
calls her pretty, I think.
or something, and then so basically they go to like fight essentially, and he tries to stab her, and she holds like a knife to his throat or something, and his blade goes through her body because she goes all whatever
Corporeal,
corporeal,
incorporeal.
incorporeal.
Yeah.
And so he's just like thinks he's killing her, and in fact nothing's happening. And so she's like, just let us in, bro. And he's like, oh shit, oh okay, yeah, you can go in, man, and whatever. But I thought that was a really nice touch of like Kaya using her powers in a very smart way,
Hmm.
which is like, yeah, I can turn part of my body. I know when you're going to stab me and you're not going to stab me because you can never touch me. Um, was nice because most of the time it's just her like pulling people through walls or whatever. Um,
Yeah. Yeah, I remember that scene now. He's like, "Oh, what do you want, pretty Orzhov lady?" And she's like,
mhm.
"Oh, you think I'm pretty?" As she's like walking up to him, and like, bam,
Yeah,
knife
yeah,
out. And then he tries to kill her and fails. And then so he lets them in. He's like, "Oh, I won't just let you in if you just paid the cover charge." And she's like, "Well, she's like you said, I'm a pretty Orzhov lady. Like, I don't make a habit of giving money out when I don't have to, or something like that."
yeah. And you're like, oh, I like it.
Yeah,
I like
get in
that.
there. Yeah.
So I want to take this moment to just say that like I think that our author, um, Shannon McGuire, Shannon McGuire. I'm not exactly sure how to pronounce this name,
Yeah.
but I
I
have
was thinking Shannon in my head, but yeah,
mhm.
it's it
I've
is
really
Sean. That's why
yeah.
we're not
So
sure.
so Shannon is possible, um, but I really like a lot of their work and all those little bits with like some of the people stuff. Um, I think this story lends itself to be really good at that, and I think our author does a really good job of adding little
Yeah,
bits when we get them.
there's lots
Um,
of great little scenes like that.
yeah, so that's why I wanted to highlight that little one because we don't even get a story spotlight card at all with like Judith, kind of until later in the story, strangely.
Right.
Um, but we go hang out with Judith for a bit,
In
and
her nightclub.
yes, before everything's happening. And essentially, Judith is telling us that she wasn't a part of it, of course, because she's, you know, not going to admit fault. And that we need to go talk to the Guild Pact. We need to consult the Guild Pact over in Vitugazi because that is where, that's in Celestia territory. Vitugazi is like a giant tree.
Yeah.
Um, and that will give us the answers we need. And so that we just kind of lead from there, and also kind of say Judith is not a suspect anymore, and we kind of almost cross her off essentially, which it's stupid. I don't know why we would cross them off now, but okay.
I remember there being a semi-convincing point at that, but I don't remember what it was. But I remember being like, ah, yeah, okay.
Yeah, I'm
Um,
like less intrigued. Uh, yeah. But we are gonna go talk to Tristani and go over to Vitugazi. Um, we're going into chapter 5 or episode 5, Chains of Expectation. But before we do that, Jeff, I wanted to ask you how your beer is doing because it might be time for a beer break.
I think it is.
All right. So let's take a quick beer break. We will get right back into it after that. So stay tuned. So we're jumping back. We just grabbed some beers, and this is episode 5, Chains of Expectation. We are going over to Vitugazi, but on the way there, we do run into a wolf and his elf friend, which is, of course, Tolsimir and Voha, which are characters we know. Um, I just bring them up because Tolsimir will come back in the story later. However,
Yeah.
this part of it does not really matter. He eventually just kind of shows us, us being Kaya and Kellen, where Vitugazi is and where the Guild Pact is kept.
Yeah. There's a
Um,
lot of like just adding random encounters with characters just so as a means of like adding them to the suspect pool
yes,
kind of thing. Like this is classic, you know, like
murder
murder
mystery.
mystery. We just got to add more characters that seem like they're more important than they
Mhm.
are.
I
I mean, maybe
would
that's a spoiler that Tolsmir
isn't
didn't
so
do it,
important.
but
I do think it's really interesting though that like Magic Story in general tries to do this trope specifically of adding extra characters so you know where their cards come from.
yeah,
But the story doesn't make any sense to do that. A murder mystery story actually makes perfect
it's a
sense to do that.
place to do it. Yeah,
And that's why this story for me felt much stronger than a lot of other ones. It also could be because it's 10 chapters long.
twice as
Um,
long. Yeah.
Yeah. But anyway, we are going to talk to Tristani, who is the dryad, the triple dryad that is in charge of Celestia.
Yeah.
And
She's the one, her previous card comboed with Dubious Challenge, where every player gains control of each creature they own.
oh, sure. Yes,
Yeah.
of course.
Everyone
Um,
knows that classic
mhm.
combo.
Yeah, I remember this. Just most of the time, you just kind of skip over their cards because they're not very good.
This one
Um,
was decent. I made like two 1/1s and gave everything +1/+1 and vigilance, and then had this kind of rider text of
of extra sauce.
everyone gains control of each creature they own.
Um, Anyway, this leads us to story spotlight number 10, which is Audience with Tristani, which is 2 and a green for a sorcery. It's at rare. Create a 0/1 green plant creature token, then draw cards equal to the number of differently named creature tokens you control. Um, anyway,
Wah wah.
let's not talk about the card. Um, but we go to Vitagazi and we're going to read the actual Living Guild Pact. Now, it is important that when we're talking to Tristani and we're in audience with them, because there's 3 of them, and they're all sisters, that we know that their names. So Sim is the Dryad of Harmony, Ses is the Dryad of Order, and Oba is the Dryad of Life. They all have kind of different personalities based on their specific
Roll.
role in in the dryadness of them. Um, but
I
this is the
believe it's
first.
Dryadity.
Oh yes, dryadity.
Yeah.
This is the first time I ever thought of Tristani being 3 different entities. I always
Right.
thought that they were just one thing, and just I thought they were like the
Which they
witches.
are. They're like
They
twin
are.
sisters, but they're combined. I think they can. Well, I'm not
I
sure
guess
how in tune they are with each other's
I
thoughts. I think it's maybe separate thoughts, but like
same body.
one body,
They're conjoined triplets.
essentially. Yeah.
I
Or like
guess
I always think of the ogre with 2 heads kind of thing, and often the 2 heads have different names.
interesting. Yeah, I guess I was thinking more so like the witches, the 3 witches in
All
Hercules.
time? Or sure.
Well, or Call Time, the
It's
same
based on
thing.
the same thing, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. But they kind of talk in rhymes and riddles together as one entity, but there's 3 separate beings. This felt kind of that's what I always thought.
But
Though
I think they're not as in tune with each other's thoughts as
as
that.
we thought, because the way that they speak seems to be much more like independent than I was.
Right.
I don't think I've ever really had it write a story that where Tristani was part of it. So I just
Yeah, I'm not sure I've read the previous Ravnicas, so maybe this is just like a thing
normal,
that,
but
yeah.
like to me it seemed strange. Anyway, um, we do read the Living Guild Pact, and we skip to Rakdos on page 29 or whatever. Um, and the funniest thing and the best thing to point out is that it does mention that Rakdos, the actual demon, not like the guild, but Rakdos, the demon, um, is specifically being held by the Rakdos cult. And specifically, they spend all of their time and energy to entertain him so that he doesn't want to just get up and destroy all of Ravnica
Yeah.
because he has the power to do that. And they kill themselves and harm themselves and do gestury, funny, stupid stuff. And I don't know,
The whole
fire breathe or
circus kind
whatever,
of thing.
like juggle blades and all that stuff, so that he just sits back and just relaxes. As
And then
opposed to what I expected was like Rakdos. I thought he was an entertainer, and he did stuff. But
isn't there a card called like Rakdos the Showstopper? Oh, I
yeah,
guess that's show stopping in a different way. Like
yeah.
your show was unacceptable.
I guess that's
I,
true. Instead
yeah.
of him being like doing the show-stopping number where he's amazing, it's more like fuck this, everybody sucks. I'm gonna kill
This is
you.
funny in a different way than I thought.
Yeah,
Like I was imagining this big, like burly demon being like,
like
"I'm
doing
putting
a
on a
dance.
show for
Yeah,
you," and now I'm like, "Oh, this is more like everybody be funny, or he'll
yeah,
kill
yeah,
everyone."
yeah, exactly. So it does seem like Rakdos is not as beloved in his Rakdos cult as we thought, because Judith did specifically tell us to go read this passage.
Right.
So it seems like Judith might not be as interested in
And
keeping
it
Rakdos
doesn't
around.
just say that he would kill everyone on the plane, right? It says he would incite everyone into a murderous rampage.
Right, because he envelops murderous thoughts, I guess,
Right.
that he's when he's around people, which is part of why the Rakdos cult does what they do. Um, anyway, really interesting. That was actually hilarious and awesome. I really like that's fun to learn a new thing about a guild that you didn't know.
Right.
Um,
And of course it lines up with people have been just murdering people without remembering or even knowing why they did it.
yeah,
And this is saying, hey, if Raktos isn't pleased, then people will go on like
doing this
crazy
stuff.
murderous rampages.
That's true. And so then maybe this is Raktos' fault, and maybe he's somehow in just doing stuff.
Yeah.
Um, anyway, Jeff, we're gonna jump back over to Proft and Etrata in her bedroom, very
Ho, ho,
romantic and
ho.
cute. And Etrata's going around talking about, well, this is blah blah blah, this is this thing. And Proft looks over at her side table and he does like a little wipe and what is this dust stuff? And it seems to be some sort of yellow powder of some kind.
Hmm.
They don't really know how it got there or what's going on, so he just scoops them into a container. I get he doesn't touch it with his finger. To be fair, sorry,
Yeah.
I made it look like he did that. Yeah, it tastes like
First thing you do with an
murder.
unknown substance is just
Yeah,
give it a
stick it in your
taste.
mouth. Um, anyway, he takes a specimen home so he can know more about it later. Um, and then
He actually asks her to like, does she have any clean poison vials?
oh sure, yeah,
And so she
right.
produces a clean poison vial that does not have poison in it for him, and then he scrapes it in with his knife.
Just to show that she is trustworthy. I think that's
Yeah.
part of the way we do this. Um, we exit the room and are walking down the hall, I guess,
Yeah.
and all of a sudden, Atrada kind of stops and she,
I believe it's called Etrata Famous Assassin Avenue. And it's
yes,
just,
yeah,
yeah.
written on the wall. Come check out Atrada. She's here from 10 to 2 or whatever. Um, so anyway, Atrada kind of stops and like notices something's weird, and then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, we got Massacre Curl jumping out of the shadows. So Jeff, we have something up, something's up.
Well, you kind of stole my thunder here because the card is Slice from the Shadows.
Oh, sorry.
Um, yeah, the spell can't be countered. Target creature gets -X till end of turn, and it's an instant X and a black. Um, yeah, so Massacre Curl jumps right out and just starts like stabbing Croft, basically.
You're
He's like
trying to, yeah.
trying to, yeah, he gets some shallow cuts, I think,
Mhm.
nothing too bad. And then Etrata like swoops in to save the day and start blocking, and then they're like, Massacre Girl? She's like, Etrata? What?
Wow.
Didn't we take Severing Arteries 101 together? Like, yes, totally. Oh, that prof was a dick, right? Yeah, exactly.
Oh.
Well, he's kind of my friend. Do you have to murder him? It's like, nah, they didn't pay that well.
Yeah.
Like, cool, cool. Well, I owe you one. You do. You do.
And she's like, "How did you get in here?" Oh, the skylight. Oh, the skylight. Of no, of course,
Right.
I was up there.
Right. I didn't check that in a while.
Yeah.
Yeah. They
She's
even
like,
like make a joke about like
the
being
tripwires or
shiny.
something.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love that severing arteries 101. That's so good. Um, anyway, yes. So we know that Massacre Girl was hired to kill Proft, which means someone's trying to kill Proft, but they aren't the person trying, who's using whatever psychic powers to kill the other people. Because Massacre Girl does know what's going on and
Yeah.
does have a memory. So that's really important. Um,
Just don't read the flavor text if you don't want to know who hired Massacre Girl.
uh, of this card.
Yeah.
Um, oh, right, of course. Anyway, so we're not gonna, which is not even necessarily told in the story at all.
It's actually not. This is the first time I learned it. I read that flavor text. I was like,
Mhm.
huh. They didn't
So,
they
well, I
didn't
guess,
they didn't explicitly say that, but I think there was.
well, Jeff, just read the flavor text now because
All
everyone's gonna
right. The
be trying to
flavor
figure
text
this out.
is Croft has been poking his nose where it doesn't belong. I want him out of the way. Judith to massacre her.
So
Dun dun dun.
this also means that Judith probably wasn't in charge of the other murders because she probably would have used the same tactics to murder other people. So
Yes.
uh, another person
Judith
that
has been officially exonerated.
big check mark. Let's go to episode 6, Explosions of Genius. So Kaya and Kellen are coming back from V2 with the new information that Rakdos.
This was such a random scene.
That's just so
Anyways.
random. Anyway, I don't even remember what happens, honestly. I think I might have been falling asleep during this one. They're like walking down a hallway or an alley or
Yeah,
something.
yeah, they go down an alleyway while people are following them.
Yeah, somebody tries to attack them. They move out of the way. This is story spotlight number 12, which is Fanatical Strength, which is exactly the same card as Staggering Size from Lost Caverns of Ixalan. So it's a 2 mana target creature gets +3/+3 and trample. We get to play with this again. Okay,
They're
cool.
all about the functional reprints these days. I'm
I
not sure. They
guess
couldn't
so.
couldn't this have been called staggering size? Anyways.
Yeah, they could have just done exactly the same thing. I
Because
just
this also doesn't fit the flavor of what happened
mhm.
because the brutes that meet them in the alley are easily dispatched.
And really stupid and horrible. And
Yeah.
Kaya just like boom, 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 hits him up. And then like, what do they do? They just like eat a leaf or something, and they just like,
Yeah, Kaya so they beat the crap out of all of them. They're all unconscious, and Kaya gets the last one, like pins him to the wall with her, like by the throat, kind of
mhm.
old school. Lift him up, be like, "Who sent you?" And then he like laughs and eats a little flower, and then turns into moss. And
Ugh.
then she's like, "What the fuck? She has this
Yeah,
moss all
it's
over
like,
her."
this is
That's
fucking
dear
gross.
God.
What the? That was the weirdest
And
fucking thing
Kellen's
everyone's
like,
ever done.
"Don't look down." She looks down, and then all of them have done it. And they're all turning into moss. Yeah.
Well, this is obviously not something Judith would have been in charge of. So like we can
Yeah.
100% no Judith.
Yeah.
Moss shit. That's weird.
Yeah.
That sounds some like fucking Golgari stuff right
It
there.
does sound pretty
Yeah.
Golgari.
Um, so now we have Proft and Etrata are going to try to get the little bit of yellow powder analyzed by Proft's friend Kylox, who is an Izzet member.
Right.
Very smart, crazy, fucking weird Viashino dude who is like a dragon.
Yeah.
Um,
Basically, Proft is like, I know this guy. He's so freaking paranoid that he's trustworthy.
yeah. Right. So we show up at his place, and it turns out that his entire workshop has been ransacked, and it's like, oh shit, Kylox could be in trouble. And this is when Proft used some of his special powers. So, Jeff, give us the story spotlight number 13.
All right, this is reenact the crime. So what Proft does, again, he can recreate anything he's seen before. Oh, by the way, the card is 1 blue, for an instant. Exile target non-land card in a graveyard that was put there from anywhere this turn. Copy it. You may cast the copy without paying its mana cost. Oof, like a really terrible Snapcaster Mage. But it has to be this turn. It's so expensive. Um, anyways, so Proft can recreate anything he's seen, like an illusion of it. So he sees this uh like workshop that's been totally destroyed, but he's been to the workshop before. So he basically creates an illusion of what it looked like before, and then is trying to match what it looks like now against what it looked like before
To
in
see
order to
how,
assess the damage and what happened. Maybe like he can find a trail that they may have played,
like,
like a directionality.
yeah, maybe
Um,
beakers fell this way, so that the attack came from this direction, and blah blah blah, things like that.
yeah, all of
Um,
that like CSI kind of stuff, like blood spatter angles.
yeah, it kind
Yeah.
of it almost seems like he's almost rewinding time is what it feels like he's doing, but in actuality he can't because that's not what his powers are.
That's what's
Um,
happening in his brain, but
yeah, in
he's really just
his
making the two
mind
images.
palace is what
Yeah.
he
I
uses.
think this ability that he has is supposed to be reminiscent of a mind palace where you can conjure up like an exact sort of
Replica of,
physical space that you've been to.
yes, I mean he's not far off. But we do find through this somehow that there's some sort of trapdoor underneath this area that we didn't really know was there.
Hmm.
because the Izzet are very good at making secret doors. Hint, hint, the person that made Atrada's brick wall thing was an Izzet person who actually is probably exactly Kylox.
Yeah.
Well, we don't know that for sure, but uh, Proft does say that once an Izzet makes something up, if it's good enough, other people will just use it. They won't like
Yeah.
make up their own version because it's just a waste of time.
Which
So
is actually how science works.
yeah, and so basically Proft is like, hey, I bet this is a door. I try to do your whole passcode thing to your house, and then I bet this will open. And she does, and it does work. And
Yeah.
that was so smart. Good job.
I
Um,
don't know if it would be the same code, but like it would be the
yeah,
same type of
type of
device. And yeah,
device,
yeah,
but like they literally use the same exact code.
yeah.
Um,
That one's a little sketchy. That's they didn't pass security 101.
it's the up down A B start. That's what they're
Yeah.
using right there.
Yeah.
Um,
So everyone uses password as their password.
yeah, yeah, literally, the Izzy Guild's like it's perfect. No one remembers.
Yeah, I don't think of that.
So this is a part where we have a long stretch where there's no story spotlight card. So we're going to get through this fairly quickly. We go into the sewers essentially. It's kind of just like a tunnel system,
Mhm.
and eventually we find Kylock's crazy weird dude, really really worried about somebody coming after him and really not wanting to help us out at all. Does not want to look at anything, analyze nothing. He doesn't even want you to be there because he's so freaked out that you even found him in the first place.
Yeah. Um, and then it turns out he may have been right to be so paranoid because you
Yeah.
hear some clanging, some clattering. Basically, you hear some people coming down who are not particularly stealthy. And so Kylox is basically like, hide. And they do. And a bunch of fucking goblins come in and grab Kylox and throw him over
Put
their
him out.
back. Like they firemen grab him or
Mm-hmm.
something and
Pull
walk
him
him
out of
right
there.
out of there. Yeah.
Luckily, we can follow those goblins, and we do follow them to their hideout, which turns out to be Krenko's hideout. So Krenko
Again, they
are
weren't stealthy at all, and
no, they're goblins.
they
They're
were
kind
just
of
trashing around.
yeah,
So
yeah,
they
they're
were very
horrible.
easy to follow.
Um, Krenko is the Tin Street Kingpin, as we know,
Hmm.
and he wants to talk to Kylox about something. He does not want to have to deal with a detective and an assassin, however, and he's very worried about them and people coming after him. Because
Yeah,
if there's an assassin out killing important people, Kranko thinks he's a very important person and shouldn't be killed.
yeah,
Um, Turns out he's actually right. Somebody does want to kill them because
yeah.
an assassin immediately busts through the door, tries to kill Kranko, and in the kind of kerfuffle, ends up killing our dear friend Kylox.
Yeah. The details on how this happened were extremely thin. It basically just says goes right for Kylox, and Kylox dies. So,
Yes,
uh,
who just happened to be around.
yeah,
Um, but that does lead us into our story spotlight number 14, which is not on my watch, which immediately after. I think Etrata has something to do with like stopping him from killing Krenko, but then he ends up killing Kylox in some way.
yeah.
Um, but not on my watch is a one and a white for an instant. It says exile target attacking creature. So Etrata subduing our assassin here, who
Okay,
important.
but I feel like
Sorry.
we must read the flavor text on this card.
Okay. The flavor text says, you know, Proft, I've done a lot of questionable things in my life, but helping a pompous detective save lives is a new low, even for me.
Literally, he just killed someone. Like you
Mm-hmm.
literally just let somebody die. Like patting yourself on the back, so to speak, for saving lives after literally watching somebody get murdered right in front of you. It's
It's
a
like,
little soon, Etrata.
okay. Yeah, she that's all she only thinks about. Oh God. Anyway,
Kylox is still like, I'm not
I've,
dead yet.
it's so
Save
sad
me
because
too.
this did seem like a character that we were like getting to know, and he seemed kind of interesting. But immediately killed him. I'm actually okay. The more deaths, the better. That's my stamp of approval.
That's because it's classic. That's Zach's opinion and everything.
Just
It's
kill,
just his life
kill,
motto.
kill.
The more
You know what?
deaths, the
The more deaths, the
better.
better. um, as far as storytelling goes, and in Magic stories specifically, there are way too many fucking
I
characters.
do agree that there's too many like almost
Just
dead, but it didn't actually happen moments where you're just like, well, I just know they're not gonna die because
yeah.
it's
So just kill people, and so that I actually care.
you need a middle ground between Magic Story and like George R. R. Martin, where like
Mhm.
some people actually survive, but some people also die.
It's
Like,
like, yeah, George R. R. Martin is like, kill the character I liked the most. Now I have to
yeah,
care about the characters I hated.
right.
Like that's
But
literally what
then you
happens.
learn to like them, and then they
Hmm.
die because you've liked them too much now.
Hmm.
So it's an eternal cycle of I have to follow
It is.
characters I hate.
Anyway, interesting thing about this assassin. Apparently, he was on the way to the flower shop,
Yeah,
and then all of a sudden, he just happened to be here, and now he's in custody for killing somebody he had no idea he was even doing. He's not even really an assassin. He's just a fucking
he's just
dude
kind of a
taking.
guy, and
He's just a
we didn't
guy.
mention it, but Tesa's assassin was apprehended, and it was the same, right? That's
Right? Yeah, 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 yeah. We found the guy who killed Tesa. It wasn't the same person as this
no,
guy,
no,
but
but it was like also just kind of a random dude,
yeah, who just like doesn't remember doing anything.
which is why I
Um,
thought it was funny that it was like Tesa had the highest of security. Like it was
sure.
just like, okay, but random guy from like the streets who wasn't even in a guild. Come on. We all
No.
know about the guild lists, am I right?
Mhm. Ugh,
But yeah,
disgusting.
it's just like,
Those fucking messengers, those
yeah,
fucking guildless podcasters, they're
the
disgusting.
goddamn Zacks of the
Yeah,
replicant
the
world.
fucking Zacks. That's what they're all called.
Yeah.
If
They're
you're
all named
guildless, just
Zack.
fucking Zacks. Like they're just it doesn't even matter what their name is. They're all named Zach. It doesn't fucking matter. They all suck.
Always hovering around the Azorius guild.
Yeah. Anyway, so once again, this is our third person who's killed somebody who doesn't remember doing it. I think that counts for
I don't want to
story
call it a
spotlight.
trend just yet,
I mean, like we're gonna call it a trend because we're gonna go into story spotlight number 15. So
All
Jeff,
right.
can you give it to us?
All right, fine. It's a trend. So story spotlight number 15 is coerced to kill. 3 blue black for an aura. You control enchanted creature. Enchanted creature's base power and toughness 1/1, has death touch, and is an assassin in addition to its other types. Really interesting card, but we're not here to talk about that.
No. Maybe at some point we will, but but yeah, exactly the idea that we're talking about right now. People are being coerced to kill in some way, and we don't really know why and what's going on. Um, so let's
And
get
I just
going.
love this that everyone is turned into an assassin, right? Just like random person is an assassin.
Anyone could be. Anyone could be an assassin.
Yeah.
Specifically, your opponent's creatures. Let's go to some stuff that happens over in the detective realm of the
Yes.
stuff. So we are now back at the agency, and I can't remember if this happens in, like when we're at the agency or not, but we have once again a random fucking person losing their goddamn mind and attacking Aurelia of all people, who's like
My
the
memory is that Aurelia like walks in with him and was like, "This motherfucker tried to kill me."
I
But
think that you're right because that makes a lot more sense because I can't remember the exact moment of someone trying to kill her. So you're probably right that
I
she
think she
walked in.
walks in, she's like, "That's enough. This thing tried to kill me."
Is it with her its head or just
I'm
his
pretty
body?
sure that's how I pictured it.
Oh,
Just
just like
like the person is still alive,
okay, it's not
but
just their
she's
head.
like,
Okay,
she's holding him by his hair.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
You
yeah.
know? That's
You
that's how I
fucking
visualized it.
think of this. I'm sure that's what it was. Aurelia would do something like that, but she'd be
Yeah.
flying, holding him
Oh
by
yeah,
his hair.
just to
Yeah,
add
yeah.
to the gravitational potential
Hmm.
energy.
Exactly. Nice. Yeah. Yeah. I like that.
Get some
Um,
physics in there.
so Aurelia is fucking pissed because she's like, someone tried to kill me. This fucking dude, it was him, but he doesn't remember. So, like, I don't know what the hell that's about, but she demands answers in story spotlight number 16, which is 1 in a red for an instant. As an additional cost to cast a spell, sacrifice an artifact or discard a card, and you get to draw 2 cards. Instant speed. This card's crazy. Um,
Yeah,
but
it's very neat. It's like a red. It is whatever.
It,
red
it
version of village rights, but you can also discard a card instead of sack a
exactly.
creature. So
It's
cost 2.
it's good. It's good. But anyway, she is pissed. And so now she demands those answers. And she says, if you don't fucking figure out what's going on, because there's been murders all over the place. We have somebody that, because at this point, the detectives don't know that Proft is with Atrada. They just
Yeah,
know that Atrada is gone. They also don't know that Teysa, the note with Teysa, all that
yeah.
stuff,
Kaya
kept
taught
that a
that
secret.
because
Yeah.
she didn't want people to think that Teysa was communicating with,
Hmm.
like, that Teysa brought the Phyrexian invasion.
Yes. So with that, Aurelia says, you've got a clock now, bitches. 24 hours, you find the killer, or I am waging war on Rakdos. It's definitely Rakdos.
Yeah, Aurelia's like, listen, because she's old enough to know, like, Rakdos's thing is inciting random people to try to murder everyone else.
Hmm.
That's what's happening here. I should march on him right now, but I'll do you the courtesy of 24 hours before
Hmm.
I
And I
before I
think
start
that,
that war.
and honestly, I think that was a lot of like Kaya just being like, hey, 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 we just went through a war with the Phyrexians. We are so close to being united as a plane. Do not start a
Right.
war again. We don't need any more wars. We need to solve this case.
Yeah.
Which makes sense. I agree with her. That's 100% what we should be doing. Um,
Yeah, have
so,
you been in a similar situation often? So you
yeah, oh
speak
god,
from experience,
so
you
many
know.
times I'm just like in a war torn
It's like I
world.
want to march against the evil demon, but we've
But
just been invaded by like robots.
yeah, it's true,
So
and
now's not the time.
we've lived with the evil demon for so long. Like like
Yeah. Why
he's
now?
yeah, like just make him some more popcorn, guys. Just keep him
Yeah.
entertained. Jesus. Um, let's go to the episode number 7, which is Rot Before Recovery. Um, there's something we kind of skipped over talking about earlier, which is that uh, the part there is an area of like the detective agency where they hold like clues and like evidence, I guess, and no one can really get into it except for other detectives.
Yeah.
And one of the things that they're holding there, I don't know how they're doing this, and I don't really understand what, but they're talking about this gruel god that they've got hidden away. And a bunch of gruel folks are really pissed about it. And they're like, give us our fucking god back. And they're like, well, it's.
He's like a rampaging mole god of harvest,
Yeah. So it's like,
of course.
let's not. Anyway, surprise, it gets out and fucking destroys everything. However, luckily, this has nothing to do with the rest of the story. It just happens.
Yeah.
There's like, oh no, was it the mole god that killed everybody? No, we know that it wasn't the mole god.
So there was something earlier about them capturing the mole god, and people were pissed about it, but the mole god was like angered or furious, or he was like, there was a reason they captured him. I wonder if the mole god was incited into rage, and that's why they had to capture him.
Oh, I didn't think about that. That they were trying to like that was one of the plans.
By whatever is like doing this, they also were capable of infecting this god.
Hmm.
Um,
I guess
I
that
don't
makes a
know.
lot more. That makes a lot more sense than what I was thinking. I'm going to go with that because I was thinking that maybe something was trying to kill the mole god, and so it freaked out, and that makes a lot less sense. Um, so let's go with what you said that they were trying to incite the mole god into this, but they were able to stop it because it's so huge. But anyway, we weren't able to stop it from destroying all of the detectives' archives and basically the entire detective agency.
Yeah,
Um,
it sounded like there weren't too many casualties there. It really felt like one person kind of got
yeah,
messed
and
up.
then some other people got hurt. But Jeff, can you tell us story spotlight number 7?
This is Ansrog's Rampage. So it's 3 red for a sorcery. Destroy all artifacts you don't control. Okay. Then exile the top X cards of your library, where X is the number of artifact cards that are put into graveyards from the battlefield this turn. You may put a creature card exiled this way onto the battlefield. It gains haste. Return it to your hand at the beginning of the next end step. Very weird card, but
Mm-hmm. So it's well, we can talk about the card another time. It's actually kind of interesting,
Yeah.
but yeah, this thing kind of flips out, and they actually end up detaining it very quickly, and it doesn't really matter. So the fact that it's a story spotlight card kind of irritates me because wow, we really need. Well, glad we added this one. It has nothing to do with
It
the.
yeah. I mean, the reason this whole subplot exists is to include the Gruul in the story.
You're right. As we go into the part where the Golgari get included to the story as well,
Yeah.
which is story spotlight number 18. Proft and Atrada go down to talk to Izoni because they want to see if Izoni knows about what's going on with this weird yellow stuff. So we're going to analyze the pollen, which is a single green for a sorcery. As an additional cost to cast the spell, you may collect evidence 8. Search your library for a basic land card. If evidence was collected instead, search your library for a creature or land card, reveal that card and put it into your hand, then shuffle. We're down here, and Azoni can immediately. Apparently, she's really nice with Proft, which is great. Um, and
Yeah.
she can tell that this pollen is obviously natural, but so it's not synthetic. It's not like an is it thing, but
Right.
it's not something she's ever seen before, so it's not Golgari. So
Yeah.
it's
And I
some
wasn't
sort
totally
of
sure what they were going with natural. I kind of interpreted it as like it's not a drug. It's not something that you take like this element and this element
oh,
and
and
like
add them together.
you combine it in an unnat like a like very created by a human kind of
That makes
way.
sense. I can see that. Um, I guess to me, it really felt like, oh, it's just very obvious that the Golgari are not behind this because we went down to talk to their lead head
Oh
person,
yeah, for sure.
which
Um,
is kind of
and
what
there were
happens.
some clues or plants a little earlier, like um, Proft has been seeing spiders, which I think is part of why
Oh,
he
right.
came to his Oni. He saw spiders in Natrada's cell,
Hmm.
and then when he noticed them, they kind of scurried off. And then when he was hiding in Kylox's like secret lair, while the goblins were taking Kylox off, there were also spiders that witnessed that. So he's like, okay, Izoni's like keeping an eye on things, and she
Hmm.
knows what's going on. So let's just go
Yeah.
pay her a visit.
Or there's just spiders in those places because
Yeah, Proft
spiders.
would know the difference between
Yeah.
Izoni spiders and just regular spiders. Okay, Zach. This is
All
why you're
right.
not in a guild. You don't get
Obviously. Well,
it.
Jeff, you know who else Prof fucking sees just randomly hanging out? It's just some random hooded dude
Jace? Oh,
in
some
the
random hooded dude?
yeah, yeah, yeah. And he has to go run after him because he was spying on Atrada and Izoni in the Gugari sewers or whatever.
That's correct.
So he's running after this random hooded dude. He gets his head hit, and then we bring to story spotlight number 19, Jeff.
This would be intrude on the mind. 3 blue. For an instant, reveal the top 5 cards of your library, separate into 2 piles. They love doing this these days. An
Mhm.
opponent chooses one of those piles. Put that pile into your hand, the other into your graveyard. Create a 0/0 colorless Thopt or artifact creature token with flying, then put a +1/+1 counter on it for each card put into your graveyard this way.
Yeah,
Weird.
really weird.
Brr.
People try to say it's fact or fiction. It's not because
No.
you have to make the piles, not your opponent.
When
Very
you make the
different.
piles and your opponent chooses,
Chooses.
and by the way, like both piles are face up, so they've tried
Yeah.
to do the face down thing in the past so to get the mystery.
Hmm.
Your opponent knows exactly what's going to happen, and anyways, this I think this card's bad.
5 manas. Anyway, um, but we are now officially in. Obviously, intrude on the mind is a hooded figure intruding on Proft's mind palace.
Bum, bum,
We talked about it
bum.
before. This is just like a library, I guess. It's like the restricted, super restricted section, essentially.
Yeah,
Um, and this person hooded thing is obviously a plant for a later story, who's grabbing a book that's good for them right now. And they said, hey, don't worry. Like, um, I'm going to borrow something from you, but your contributions will be noted.
yeah.
So I don't know. Yes, Jace is a really good like idea of like who it could be because that's the fucking shit Jace would do all the time. But Jace is also like a Phyrexian,
Just even
so
the art, it just like looks like Jace, and then some random shit's blocking his face, so you don't know for sure it's Jace.
it's probably Jace. If it's not Jace, I'm gonna be pissed. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
it's like weirdo Phyrexian may or may not be a planeswalker, may or may not be Phyrexian Jace, but
Yeah.
um,
We also know like there's a card in the set that looks like Vraska and Jace, so like it's
yeah,
it's
come
them. Yeah.
on. My question is, if a book gets stolen from your mind
Mind
palace,
Palace.
you lose that knowledge, or does Jace only gain that knowledge?
I would assume that you would lose that
You
knowledge.
lose it, right? Like your book's no longer in your mind palace. It's in
That seems so you can't like call
Jace's
back
mind
to the
palace
memory.
now. Yeah.
Yeah, and Jace's mind palace is pretty strong. Anyway, um, yeah, so it's literally just stealing your memories. That sucks.
That's a bummer.
That's a real bummer.
Yeah.
Actually,
That's a
just
dick move, man.
that's a
That's
real
a
dick
dick move.
move. Let's go to story spotlight number 20. So, uh,
Back to our hero.
Agris Kos.
Yeah.
So Agris Kos is in the story for this moment, which is a horrifying one, by the way. Um,
Yeah. Also, like if we just removed him the story, it'd be the same story, but we
it
just
would
had to
be
add this horrific moment.
so fucking scary. Like this is the kind of shit. Like I love this shit, and I'm glad it was here. But like,
Yeah.
anyway, he decides he wants to go venture into a place that he doesn't think is safe enough for humans, and only ghosts could go. So he wants to go
We
pay
did
Jude.
mention that he's dead in the ghost, right?
Hey, he's a ghost.
I don't know if we
Uh,
mentioned that
I
earlier or
think
not.
we
I
did.
think
We
we
said the
did.
ghost. Yeah.
Okay, good. Yeah.
Anyway, I think you did. You did. You said it.
Okay.
We go and want to go talk to Judith. Now, basically, he goes down to decide to do this. He tells Kaya and Kellen, "Don't stay with me. I'm going to do this by myself," and is also very secretive of where he's going, which is also stupid. This is the
Yeah.
classic: don't go hiking by yourself without telling people where you're going. It's just don't do that.
But he wanted to return with the glory, Zach.
But it's what a fucking stupid Boros thing to say, you know. Um, Anyway, he goes to talk to Judith, and then he basically gets like sucked into some sort of weird, I don't know, spirit thing. He gets pulled down into like Rakdos Sea chambery stuff. I don't even know what it is.
Yeah.
But essentially gets Judith sucks him into like a crystal skull,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Like
So he doesn't go to talk to Judith. Basically, what he wants to do is Rakdos is a suspect. He knows, like, Rakdos basically lives in the deep heart of the Rakdos territory, way below ground. So he's like, I'm as a ghost, I can just go there and see if Rakdos is
mm,
there. And so he like goes to where Rakdos normally is, and he sees Rakdos sleeping in his pit with like moss covering him. So he's been sleeping a long ass time. So he basically confirmed that Rakdos is not to blame for this because Rakdos is not even awake.
gotcha.
But then Judith comes out and was like, I don't want you foiling my plans, and catches him in the skull because Judith wants people to believe that Rakdos did this.
Right. That makes a lot of sense. I was kind of confused on exactly why he was doing this whole fucking thing.
Yeah, he
But
was like, you know what? People are guessing, is it Rakdos? Is it not Rakdos? I'm just gonna go fucking check.
yeah.
And he
So
should have just said that. I don't know why he didn't say that. He's like, I'm a
he's,
ghost. I can go check if Rakdos is even
but
awake.
you fucking stupid asshole. Kaya has a ghost form. She can do the same shit that you can. Get out of here. You just think you're important
Maybe
or
that's why
like
he didn't bring it up. He was like, no, I want to be the hero. I want to
yeah,
be the one who goes and confirms it's
exactly.
Rakdos.
Exactly the fine like this is the Boros thing to do. Anyway, so story spotlight number 20 is Soul Enervation, which is 3 and a black for an enchantment with flash. And it says when it enters the battlefield, target creature gets -4/-4 until end of turn. And then whenever one or more creature cards leave your graveyard, each opponent loses 1 life and you gain 1 life. So
Also, I just want to comment on how ridiculous Judith's plan is. Like, her plan is everyone's gonna think Rakdos did this, so they're gonna what? Imprison Rakdos or like come kill him, and then you get to take over the guild. Like,
that's basically what she
if they
thinks.
could do that, they wouldn't need your entire cult. Your entire cult is the prison for Rakdos to like keep him
Mm-hmm.
subdued. If they could just easily like imprison him or get rid of him, there wouldn't be the whole guild pact of your cult even existing.
That's true. And then like there'd be no reason like red black would have nothing and there would just only be 9 guilds because
Oh, what a
your entire
disaster that would
purpose.
be. Wouldn't get to play against red black anymore.
Yeah, wait, or you couldn't be able to play red black anymore.
What a disaster.
Um, but
I
Jeff,
don't even
this
want to imagine that
it
kind of
just
scenario.
immediately pushes in us into the next story spotlight. So tell us what the next one is. We've talked about this card before,
This is
but
convenient target. It's the aura that enchants a creature, and when it enters the battlefield, you suspect the enchanted creature. The creature gets +1/+1, and you can pay 2 and a red to return convenient target from your graveyard to your hand.
mm-hmm. So um, obviously this makes a bunch of sense, and we can't really tell if Judith wants there to be a war or not. Is she like kind of on Aurelia's side and wants to fight everybody? Like I don't really know. It
I
like
think she's just like the classic anarchist on the side of chaos. Like she
because like
wants a war from Aurelia because that's just anarchy.
I think she wants to like open it up and like everybody fights and then there's no guild system anymore because there is a through line of like are the guilds is that a good idea to have the guilds be like in charge of stuff?
Yeah,
And like I think Judith just wants to own Ravnica. I think that's kind of more of what it is. It's like it's not
right.
so much that I want to be in charge of Rakdos. I just want Rakdos to be in charge of everything. That
Right.
seems a little
Because
bit more
she
in line.
is kind of in charge of Rakdos right now while Rakdos sleeps. She's like
Yeah,
this speaker.
exactly. Um
Anyways,
so
she's a little crazy, so
yeah, she's also like I don't know. Sometimes we get her in tones of like she's like a stripper or something. I can't really tell.
I know
She's like a
it describes her like skin tight velvet and stuff.
yeah. She
Like,
seems she like owns a nightclub, but she's also the entertainment for the nightclub. And like I love the idea of like a stripper owning her own nightclub and being like this the in charge of it. That's like a
yeah,
great. And I like Judith in the sense like that. The whole taking over Ravnica thing, I don't like as much.
yeah.
Um,
I
but
also hate Judith because like her card was a real letdown.
yeah, we'll probably talk about that next week
Yeah,
about her new card. It's very is it aligned,
it's
but
weird.
it's weird. Anyway, uh, we come back to reality. Uh, Argus Cos is now captured. Nobody cares and never talks about it ever
Yeah,
again.
it just doesn't come up. Don't worry. If
Don't
you're
worry.
worried, if you're like, don't worry, we'll get him out.
Nope.
Nope. Nobody
He's
even
gone.
noticed he was gone.
Like not even Aurelia. Like nobody fucking cares that he's gone. Like it just doesn't matter. There's something else in the story that happens that nobody cares about, and it's like I can't remember what it is right now because I also don't care about it. So like
Right.
whatever. Um. Anyway, I don't exactly know how this comes about. I thought this kind of happened earlier in the story.
I mean, this never really happens.
Okay, so
Like,
that would be a wonderful explanation of like why I have no idea what's
which
going
is
on.
sort of like Rakdos has a card in this set, right? But
Hmm.
Rakdos is asleep for this whole story. So,
So like this it doesn't
spoiler
matter.
alert, Rakdos doesn't wake up.
No, not as
Yeah.
far as we know. Um, the flavor text for the card for this story spotlight is while Aurelia mustered the Boros Legion, Kaya and Kellen raced against the clock, desperate to stave off a war the guilds might not survive.
So this
That
is basically what we already talked about.
yeah,
Like,
this flavor text essentially tells us that this is the same card as like the other one, demand answers, right?
right.
So it's kind of strange that they've put this in this place. And the reason it's in this place, it's official WotC telling us this is the order of the cards. So that's why we put it right here. Um, it's just once again we're just racing against the clock. Doesn't matter because Proft is the one who stops who saves the day in anyway. So like, but anyway, we're just gonna talk about it. Story spotlight number 12. Sorry, 22. Jesus Christ, I'm so
23.
22, 23. This is 22. War Leader's Call. We're talking about War Leader's Call.
Oh, right. I thought we were moving past
No,
War Leader's
no,
Call.
no, we're not. War Leader's Call is the one red white for the enchantment. Creatures you control get +1/+1, and whenever a creature enters the battlefield, it deals 1 damage to each opponent.
That's the card.
That's a card. Okay, Jeff, we're finally at episode 8, which is God of Chaos, which is technically Rakdos, I would think, but he doesn't appear in the story, so
Yeah.
don't worry about it. But we immediately get story spotlight number 23. Jeff, take it away.
Assemble the players, 1 in a white enchantment. You may look at the top card of your library anytime. Once each turn, you may cast a creature spell with power 2 or less from the top of your library. Love it.
Yeah, so right before this, essentially, everybody sat together, and Proft was like, "Oh my god, I know who the killer is. Just wait!" Like a classic moment, and then
Yeah.
we cut off. That was the end of episode 7. So episode 8, we are now.
I guess we should say at the end of episode 7, Croft and Estrada and Kaya and Kellen meet up and sort of share information. And
Right.
then Proft is like, that confirms everything.
Everything I thought. Except not exactly. He's not. He's really really close, but he has one more piece to get.
Yeah.
We go to V2 Ghazi, back to Celestia to assemble all the folks. So that means we have Judith, we have Tolsimir, we have Massacre Girl, we have Raelia, Krenko, Jostani, all of
Basically, every legendary creature we've talked about is there.
basically.
And then
Kaya,
even some we
Kellen,
haven't.
Ezrim, all the other ones.
Ral
Anyway.
Zarek.
Oh yeah, Ral Zarek is there too. I forgot.
Because he's a guild leader.
Yeah. We assembled
The
everyone
random
to.
centaur from the Gruul, he's there.
Oh right, I don't remember.
Yargis or
Yaris,
something like that.
Yaris. He's there, and we have all the folks that could possibly be it. And Proft basically says, "I know who did it, but I do need to talk to everybody first." And the first person he wants to talk to is Kaya. So they go and sit into another room. By the way, Vitu-Ghazi is like a giant tree that has a mansion on it. We didn't really talk about this.
Yeah.
But it's basically like a fancy house.
It's like
right?
the world's greatest tree fort.
Yeah. It's not as big as Kaya was expecting it to be, but it's still growing.
Yeah.
So,
well, I think it got ravaged a bit by the invasion. And it's like rebuild.
Yeah.
It's in rebuild mode.
Exactly. We go into the separate room, and it's just Proft and Kaya sitting there in silence, and they don't really know what's happening. And Kaya's like, "Well, I'm not going to talk till he talks," because that's the classic, like, why did he pull me aside? Like, that's fucking weird. Do you think I did it? That's a crazy thing to do for me. Like, it's not me, right? Like,
Yeah.
I can't believe
This is a pretty good Sherlock Holmes moment where they just have Sherlock sitting there, legs crossed with his pipe.
Mm-hmm. He was like chilling, and the suspect is also just not saying anything. And we know that they're kind of like, oh, we're sitting here because we know that we're waiting for the suspect to say to kind of say too much information. But Kaya is obviously our main character, so she's not going to do that. And while this is happening, Proft is just sitting there, and we have a little vine come down from the ceiling, and slowly a bud of a flower emerges and then opens up. And right as it's opening up, Proft jumps on top of it, puts a can, like a glass container on it, and cuts it off and sticks the flower into the container. And then he uses like a magic force field to like seal it. Why he can't just use a regular lid?
They have these like capsules at the
Yeah.
agency. He basically used an agency capsule.
But he was able to seal that. And that brings us to story spotlight number 24, which is Deduce, which is 1 in a blue for an instant draw card, then investigate. So Proft finally has the final piece of the puzzle. He knows exactly who did it because he now has this flower. And obviously we're assuming that this flower puffs the yellow powder, which actually happens to be pollen and is the reason people are killing other people. So he walks back into where everybody is, and he's like, "I figured it out, everybody! Ba 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 ba! This is the
Legend of
flower."
Zelda music. Love.
Yeah, exactly. Um, that is the final piece of the puzzle. So Jeff, we're moving into story spotlight number 25. What does he do with this information?
Well, he makes a very dramatic accusation.
Oh.
So dramatic accusation, tuna blue, enchant creature. When it enters the battlefield, tap enchant a creature. Enchant a creature doesn't untap during its controller's untap step. You can pay blue and a blue to shuffle enchant a creature into its owner's library.
Very interesting. Now, Jeff, right before we go into our final accusation to talk about who murdered all of the people, can I get a beer? Can I
Yeah,
go get a beer?
let's do it.
All right, I'm
It's a
gonna go
great
get.
time for a beer bang. Let's just classic cliffhanger moment. They have no idea.
They have no idea who it was. All right,
Yeah,
we'll be right back.
yeah.
All right, Jeff, we're back.
You know what, Zach?
Hmm.
Let's tell them who did it. They've been waiting long enough.
Hmm.
They need to know. The murderer was. Wait, I was waiting for the drum roll. Oba!
Wait, who's that again?
Oba is, of course, the sister of. It's Tristani!
Yeah.
Oba is the triad of life.
Yes, yes. Oba is the triad of life.
Scroll through my notes, scroll through my notes,
Yeah,
scroll through
yeah.
my notes.
Sister of
Triad of life.
Sim and Sess.
By which I mean Zach's notes.
Yeah. Um, so Tristani is the killer. And I think this part is actually really interesting, which this is so up into this point. If you watch the debut video, you've known all of this information, but we've given you some fun little tidbits along the way. As we go into the reasons why Oba actually was the killer, I think that this makes a lot more sense. And I'm interested to hear what you say, Jeff, but we get to dissect this a little bit. This also rolls into episode 9, which is Beauty and Destruction, which is also Story Spotlight number 26, Insidious Roots, which I will also read. Insidious Roots is black and a green for enchantment. Creature tokens you control have tap, add 1 mana of any color, and whenever 1 or more creature cards leave your graveyard, create a 0/1 green plant creature token, then put a +1/+1 counter on each plant you control. So basically, through the story, Oba is explaining the reasons why she did this. Proft is saying, like, hey, they have access to all of the city because Vitu-Ghazi is the city. Ravnica is Vitu-Ghazi. It's like the same entity. And Mat Celestia is like the plane's energy, essentially. And so, like, it ends up being the main focus of, like, magic. Now, through the vines and any tree that is on Ravnica at all connects to Celestia, which is insane to me. The fact that every single blade of grass can be heard by Trostani is like just stupid.
Yeah.
But that's just how it is. And so the insidious roots are literally Celestia's roots in all of Ravnica. They can hear everyone's conversations through the roots of the city. Now, Sis and Sem, or sorry, Sess and Sim, that's what it is, do mention to Oba that like sometimes words can be a little bit muffled, but Oba does say that this is their attack on the rest of Ravnica because of the actions of people on Ravnica during the Phyrexian invasion. Directly related to that, so the main culprits are, Jeff, remind me, Krenko.
Yeah. So Krenko basically, during the Phyrexian invasion, Krenko was sending his goblins out to loot stores, get supplies and stuff, like essential supplies, food, water, first aid kits, that kind of stuff. And he sold it for a huge profit to
Mm-hmm.
the people who needed it.
Yeah, so Krenko is Jeff Bezos. And so we already know evil.
Yeah.
We have Zagana, who is the Simic Combine, one of the leaders. And what were they doing?
They were enthralled by the Phyrexian oil. They thought it was really interesting and maybe could be used to actually make some enhancements to some of their own people. So they were
So
experimenting with Phyrexian oil.
that is fucking freaky as shit. And
Yeah,
then Teysa writes in Phyrexian and looks like she could be a
she
double
was
agent.
communicating with the Phyrexians.
That's just
Um,
like,
Oba claims that she wanted the Phyrexians to take over Ravnica, and then she would was promised rulership of the new land.
all of these are fucking valid. Those are horrible things. Like, yes, Oba is hearing all these things, and how are they supposed to just react to, oh, now the Phyrexians are gone and all of you are like totally fine now. You're all horrible, evil people. Um, Tiny side note: Vanifar does mention that Zagana was working and experimenting with the Phyrexian oil on her own orders to try to find a cure
For
for the
Phyresis.
phyresis. So that one doesn't work out so well.
Yeah,
And
it's not great.
yeah, then they also mentioned that Teso was actually trying to communicate with the Phyrexians to stop them slash um, have have a. I guess I don't really actually understand this one very much.
Queso is pretending that that was her plan, and then feeding the Phyrexian attack plans to the Ravnicans.
Right, so that they would be
So she
prepared.
was telling the Phyrexians, "Hey, I'll bring I'll be your confidant, and
Hmm.
I'll rule in your stead once you take over." But she was really telling the strategic and military plans of the Phyrexians to the Ravnican
Aurelia
generals.
and whoever.
Yep.
So it seems that Oba was horribly mistaken, except for Kranko. Kranko's still Jeff Bezos and a piece of shit.
I
Um,
love Krenko tried though. He was like, "Yeah, no, I was going behind enemy lines so that the Phyrexians couldn't use those supplies." And then there's just like Phyrexians don't need food or
or
water
water
or
or any of this shit.
yeah.
And you also made a fuck ton of money. He's like, well, someone's got to make it.
Yeah.
It's like, fuck you, dude. God. And that's like, sorry, for all you Cranko enjoyers out of there,
Yeah.
get
Krenko
fucking wrecked.
fans. I
Um,
mean, I've actually played some Krenko in my day when
oh,
I had my
fuck
little
you, Jeff
my
Bezos.
little spat
Fuck you.
when I had my little spat with a historic goblin combo. Krenko's
Part
in
of that.
there.
That's true. That's true. OG Cranko is in there.
Yeah, the
Um,
original one that just was exponential goblin tokens.
yeah, but OG Cranko feels like he's just like granddaddy of goblins and just shits
Yeah,
them out,
yeah.
as opposed to all the other ones
Oh, I
now.
wouldn't play the new one.
Ugh, disgusting. Anyway, um,
I don't know
I
why they sent an assassin after Aurelia. What did Aurelia do in the Phyrexian invasion? Like, not a good enough job as general or something.
probably, I guess. At this point, it was just like frustration with everybody.
The key
Um,
clue, dear listener, was the assassin who last thing he remembered was being in a flower shop.
that's the key clue. So he was in a flower shop, and obviously the pollen from those flowers got him to go kill Kranko, but he didn't actually kill Kranko.
And of course, that would be like, aha, Oba, the Dryad of Life.
That
If,
makes the
if you
most
were
sense.
if you were Proft, if you were
Hmm.
Proft.
You would have figured it out. But all those clues make sense. So then we talk about Zagana pointing at the Demir thing. Obviously, if we had mind controlled this assassin, they could do whatever they wanted with it. If they wanted to point in a bunch of different directions to confuse anyone who was trying to be a detective about this. Um,
I feel like probably like I think what they're going for is Tristani was trying to make them think it was a Trotta,
mhm.
and like you catch a Trotta, okay,
Then it's
case
done.
closed.
Hmm.
So they had them point at the Demir symbol. It's just so like dim-witted because a professional Demir assassin would never do that.
Yeah, that's also assuming that you would think that a professional, like Proft would happen to be the only person who actually thought that. Everyone else seemed to be dumb enough to think that a Demir assassin is not good enough to
No,
also
no,
get
but I
away.
mean like for the pointing at Demir on the coats.
Oh, sure, sure,
So
sure,
my
sure.
assumption is that Tristani did that so that they would capture Etrata and be like, Etrata did this
Hmm.
and throw blame away from herself. But like, why would the assassin ever do that? Right?
Also, the
It's
fact
such like
that
a
the
surface level
assassin
stuff.
was in Celestia clothing gives us
Right.
something
It's
away.
just like
Um,
doesn't make if Tristani was controlling Etrata, I don't understand that first scene.
this also happens to be. I do think it's important that Tristani says that this is not the first slew of murders that she's done. She's done
Yeah.
a ton
Oba
before
Oba
this.
was like
Oh, sorry,
to,
Oba,
yeah,
specifically
yeah.
Oba.
Oba was like, to prove my point, I've been murdering for weeks. It wasn't until I murdered someone important that you cared,
Hmm.
which is also a valid point.
It's super valid because, like, I'm sure she could have murdered like a ton of guildless, and no one gives a fucking shit because that's what Ravnica's like. Ravnica doesn't give a fuck about guildless people. They don't care about the Zacks of the world. Okay, so you know,
Zach's on Team Oba now.
I kind of am honestly like. I think that her reasonings behind it made a lot more sense reading the story than watching the debut video where they didn't explain it at all and they just kind of said it was just Donnie. Like
Yeah,
I just
they
thought
they
that it
did
was.
do the whole like culprit thing of they very quickly were like Zagana was experimenting with Phyrexian oil and
Hmm.
Tesa was communicating with Phyrexians, and but this shed a lot more light into her
Yeah,
motives.
and so it
Um,
actually made sense to me.
the part that got through to me was she was saying during the Phyrexian invasion, like Vitu-Ghazi was a big part of
Hmm.
essentially like the attack and the invasion tree from Phyrexia was essentially trying to like take
Take
over and
over.
be the new Vitu-Ghazi. And they're connected to Vitu-Ghazi. And she decided to take all of that herself instead of letting her sisters share that burden.
Hmm.
So she was basically poisoned,
Corrupted. Oh,
like
sure.
corrupted,
Hmm.
because she was like, this is so painful. I don't want my sisters to feel this. I'm going to be the one that takes it all. And so it's sort of like like the necklace in Harry Potter where he really
Right.
starts to be a dick because he's wearing the necklace. She's like, just take it
Hmm.
off and share it
Hmm.
between us.
Yeah,
She
or
didn't
it's
do that. She took the whole
mhm.
hatred.
It's like Frodo in the Ring and all that, right?
Yeah, all that
Um,
classic trope.
so yeah, and that's how her sisters had no idea that she was feeling this way or thinking these things, is because
Yeah,
she took it all on her own.
she's been poisoned by the Phyrexian
Yeah,
invasion, essentially.
which honestly, after all of this and getting into it, I this is kind of like a final thoughts thing, but like I like it much more now. When it was
Hmm.
first spoiled to me and the way that they spoiled it, I think was horrendous.
Yeah,
But being able to sit with it and actually talk about it, and the actual motives do make sense, and it isn't just a random like Rakdos person, which would have kind of been like, okay, sure.
right. And the motives like make sense and are a bit of a leap, but then again are like she wasn't totally she was like furious and like she had that hatred
Yeah,
going through her.
that
So
she
she,
wouldn't
yeah,
normally
she was
have.
jumping to conclusions, but like
It
right,
also
almost rightfully so. She withstood basically the entire Phyrexian invasion.
it also gets to show the strength of a guild that we usually kind of overlook, and the guilds that could be evil if they wanted to be or had to be, but they aren't because that's not part of their philosophy. But someone that would get poisoned in that guild could do the types of things that they were able to do
Right.
because of their reach through Ravnica, and that they would never be actually kind of uh, thought of as they would never be targeted for something like this. Um, anyway, So Oba goes fucking apeshit.
Yep.
She goes fucking crazy. Now, Jeff, do you want to
She,
give us?
I
Sorry,
mean,
go
she's
ahead.
basically like, because Proft brought everyone to Vitu-Ghazi because what in his own words, basically said, how would I convince like Tristani to come when
Hmm.
she knows she's the killer to come to like my get together where I announce the killer? I have to give her a modicum of
False sense of
comfort
security. Yeah.
by having her host it.
Hmm.
And then she's like, well, that was fucking dumb because now you're all in my house, all the most powerful people in Ravnica, and I'm gonna kill you all.
Hmm.
And so she like, I don't know, knocks out her sisters. This kind of does a like, yeah, they
Hmm.
both fall asleep, and then she starts floating up and like controlling, becoming one with the tree, and honestly, one with Ravnica.
Yeah.
And this is this my story spotlight or yours?
It is your story spotlight.
Is World Soul's Rage, which is X green red for a sorcery, deals X damage to any target, put up to X land cards from your hand and or graveyard onto the battlefield tapped. And it's
Hmm.
Tristani is a Gruul card.
Hmm. Which is new because Tristani's always white green. So we lost the white, we added the red. The rage is on. Um, so Oba is now taking the power of Mot Celestia and the world soul of Ravnica, and her vines are shooting out and grabbing everyone around. She's pinning everyone that's inside of our mansion and kind of around, pulling them down and taking control of everybody. I've essentially taken the hostage, but also killing them, kind of. Um, the
Yeah,
only the
essentially, she's trying to kill
He's
them
trying to
all.
kill everyone. The only person who seems to have any strength in this is Kaya, who is able to slip through the branches because of her ghost form and grabs her daggers, slices everybody else open, everyone she can, which she goes for Kellen first, which is just bonkers to me. Like,
Yeah.
okay, you
She's like,
good
that's the
job.
biggest threat.
Yeah, the
That
fucking
guy.
yeah, Boy Scout, get him. Um, but then like trying to get Ral and get Proft and all those folks. Um, and through that, and as she's helping, of course, Oba decides that she's going to grab. Oh, sorry. Before that happens, we have she's freeing all the folks, and Yaris becomes free. Now, Yaris is the Gruul head dude, centaur man, and
Yeah.
he
He's
wants to
token
plunge.
Gruul guy.
Yeah, he wants to plunge like a spear into Oba's heart, and as he's going to do that, Tolsimir jumps in the way and gets stabbed in the chest and fucking dies.
Just that's it for Dulcimere. That's why we mentioned him earlier. He
Tolsimir's
lit
dead. He dies.
and so here's what I'll come in and mention that when Proft is revealing the killer, he's like, the killer is from Celestia. And Tolsimir jumps up and is like, you've caught me. It was
Oh,
me.
right.
And Proft is like, no, it wasn't you, stupid. You don't have the power to do this. There's basically no way it was you. That makes no
Hmm.
sense. And you know that stupid, like, suicide vine thing that the killers did? You have one in your pocket. So you were
Hmm.
willing to, like, take the ultimate sacrifice for your guild the whole time. I noticed that right away. Sit down. And then he,
Hmm.
like, points to whatever. But like, you know that your patron is a vicious murderer. And you're just like, I will still take the spear for you. Insane. But
Yeah, it's insane. Also insane that Voha, his wolf, who's always by his side, nowhere to be seen.
just gonna be like, where the fuck's Tolsimir?
And I guess that's why Voha has their own card now and is
Yeah.
like a pre-release
There's
promo.
also a token and a card in the set, which
Yeah,
is
it's
kind of odd. But
well, it's a token and a pre-release promo card in the set. But
oh,
yeah,
that's not like a real card. It's just
it's a card that's legal and standard, but not a card you'll get in packs.
oh, okay, gotcha.
Yeah, it's one of the
That
three
that
cards.
that makes sense then. Yeah.
Yeah, it's one of the three cards you'll get in different pre-release packs. Um,
The other thing I just wanted to quickly call out.
yeah.
we're talking about people like with struggling with their vines. The way Izoni is struggling with her vines is the vines wrap around her and she just like sits there. And then when it gets a bit too much, she pulls a little vial out of her pocket and pours it, and the vines like burn away.
Yeah.
And then she just sits there and waits, and it like happens again. And it even says like later on as things get more intense, like Izoni's starting to run out of vials. You're like, oh no.
What's gonna happen to his Oni? Um,
She basically just like doesn't give a fuck. And it those are the two mentions of Izoni in this whole like denouement. And it's just like I thought that was
that's great.
great.
Well, also because you love his Oni from
She could
past
probably leave
cards.
at any point, but she's just like, I kind of want to see how this turns out, but
What's
I'm
going
running out of
on?
vials.
Yeah.
Like,
So Yaris kills Tolsimir. Um, no one's really sad about it. However, Atrada gets fucking wrecked by one of the vines. It like comes out and like Oba's like branch spear thing goes into her like chest, basically breaks through her ribs and like fucks her up.
so
Like,
here's the thing I didn't totally, well, I think I have a theory for it now, but basically, Oba was pissed about the killing of Tolsimir, and so she made a spear out of a vine
oh,
to kill Yaris,
Yaris.
and Etrada jumps in the way to
Oh, I think
save
I
Yaris.
feel like I missed that part.
Yeah,
I thought
well,
Atrada just got fucking
I read
wrecked.
it a few times. I was like, wait, so, I'm sorry. The famous Demir assassin jumps in the way of the random Gruul centaur. But yes, that's what happens.
Oh,
So,
what the
like,
fuck?
Oba was like, "Are you fucking you killed like Dulcimere?" And like
Tolsimir.
tries to give the retribution, like I'll make a spear out of my vine
Swiftly,
and I'll
yeah.
fuck you up with it. And to try to like jumps in the way, and I was just like, "What?"
Right?
But that's what happened.
I guess I missed that part completely, but all right. That's dumb.
Yeah,
But Trotta is bleeding out, and Proft is upset about it because it's his new best girlfriend.
yeah,
Um,
because there's a lot of relationships in this story that are like, I don't know if this is a really close friendship or like a romantic relationship.
mhm.
And I guess like maybe they don't either.
Yes,
But
but this one was actually good. I did kind of like this one, to be
I
honest.
liked all of them, to be
Mhm.
fair. But there was just I think maybe it's just the way the writing was like very like tender relationships. It's
Yeah,
like
it's true. I mean, like Kellen and Kaya. Kellen reminds Kaya of Tyvar in some ways, and she really likes
yeah,
Tyvar and has a close connection from
even like
Kaldheim.
some aspects of the Kaya Tesa relationship when I was
Hmm.
reading, I'm like, are they more than friends? Are
I
they
don't know.
not even friends? Are they
Yeah,
just friends?
they have a
Like,
tumultuous relationship. It's pretty interesting. Um, but definitely Proft and Atrada had a bit of they had cute moments that weren't like splash water on each other moments, like the
it was
fucking Lost Caverns
yeah.
of Ixalan bullshit of whatever that was. Um,
No, it's a little more like this is where a gentleman turns around.
yeah.
Come
Yeah.
into my bedroom.
Yeah, things like that that feel like it has vampire-ish feels, but vampire stuff always has like I don't think Atrada's a vampire, but like
I think she
uh
is.
is she a vampire?
I think so. Could be wrong
Damn.
about that. She has
Whew.
they describe her fangs a few times.
Ooh, Atrada got like a lot hotter to me, like all of a
Oh
sudden.
damn, I didn't realize she was a
Holy wait,
vampire.
what the fuck? A
Oof.
blue black vampire? Holy shit, what the fuck? Actually, let's look it up while we're doing this, because I'm just drunk enough to not care about the length of the episode anymore.
Yeah,
Um,
this is why it always goes to shit.
because we drink more on these episodes. Yeah, she's a vampire assassin. You're right. Okay. All right. Um anyway, uh let's just say that they're all bleeding and sad and all this stuff. Let's jump over to Kaya and Kellen are getting grabbed by vines,
Yeah.
and they have been established to be the threats. They get pulled out of the house, up into the air, thrown to God knows where. Now, uh, Kellen is falling, free falling through the sky, and Kaya's like, "Oh shit, what's gonna happen to Kellen?" But Kaya does get wrapped by another vine, and most of the time she's just trying to use her what is it? Corporeal form?
Incorporate, like,
Incorporeal form?
yeah,
Something
I
like
could
that.
call it ghost form or whatever.
Ghost form.
I don't even remember what they called it in the,
I'll just call it ghost form because that's an actual card that I know.
yeah,
Um,
and it
uh,
has Kaya on it.
it
So
does. It's Kaya's ghost form, in fact. Um, so she will use her ghost form to go like through the roots, but like this time she can't actually go through the roots because now that Oba is using Mat
Mod Celestia,
Celestia
yeah,
to use the Ravnica World Soul. The magic is too powerful for Kaya to actually go through. We
she's
actually,
basically fighting against a plane.
which we
Right.
haven't ever seen before. We've seen her go through stuff, but like she's never had to deal with going through the power of like
Just like
giant magic.
her magic doesn't work because
Yeah,
it's not good enough or whatever.
which we know that her magic didn't work against like Tesa's wards earlier. So this is kind of that's a foreshadowing to this moment, I guess.
Yeah,
But this seems like massively more difficult.
yeah.
So Kaya is currently stuck in the branches. Kellen is free falling. And that does bring us to story spotlight number 28, which is Fey Flight, which is one in a blue for an enchantment aura with flash. Enchant a creature. Whenever it enters the battlefield, enchanted creature gains hexproof until end turn, and enchanted creature gets +1/+0 and has flying. This is where our friend Kellen learns that he can fly.
Yeah. I
Classic.
believe I can fly.
It's just the classic kick the little bird out of the nest, and like if they fly, great. If not, they were supposed to die. You know.
Yeah. And
And
that's why Kellen's here in
yes,
this story, because he learns to fly.
he needs blue magic to fly. Number
Yeah.
one. So like Kellen went from white red to red white to white green to green blue, and the next set he's probably going to be like blue black or something.
Are we working our way towards five color, Kellen?
I'm pretty sure we are. That's the whole arc.
Is this like a weird take on Omna where we
Yes,
instead of adding one color at a time, we like
it's
go
like go
through
through
every possible
the
cycle?
things. I think so. It's not at this point. It's not extremely interesting anymore.
Yeah.
The first two were like, "Oh, this is cool." Now the third one's like, "Oh, okay, I know what you're doing."
Yeah.
Because if the next one is blue, another color, and
Right.
black is the last one we haven't touched yet, yeah, okay,
Ooh, and that's what evil Kellen? I'm
yeah.
here for
I
it.
mean, it's the next set is Outlaws of Thunder
It's a very
Junction.
Darth Vader story.
Well, and then we go to Bloomborough. Kellen is in Bloomborough. Wait, what the fuck? And he's like Braktos in Bloomborough.
Yeah.
That's weird. Um,
I just thought it was worth calling out while Kellen like learns to fly, he kind of like looks down and he basically sees Massacre Girl and Judith fighting.
yeah. So basically, Massacre Girl was like with Aurelia. She was
Yeah, oh yeah,
brought.
Massacre Girl was a part of this whole thing, but managed
Yeah,
to escape while no one else could.
all this stuff was happening because Massacre Girl's Massacre Girl.
Well, she
Um,
took escaping 105.
yeah, exactly. Right, right, right,
Essentially.
right. Because yes, Professor
She actually
Jeff.
got a B plus in that. So
Yeah, if you didn't know, Jeff is a doctor
yeah,
in assassination.
that's correct. That's what it
Yeah,
says on my diploma. Yeah,
yeah. Math and assassins.
yeah. A
Um,
minor in assassination.
oh, right. That's right. I just forget that every time. Um, anyway, yes, they're fighting. Basically, Massacre Girl's trying to keep Judith from running away because she also happened to get away. Um,
And I guess they're pretty pissed because Judith paid Massacre Girl to kill Proft, and
and
she
didn't
didn't
do it
do it. So,
because she, yeah, likes Citrata a lot. We don't know how much. I've been watching Grey's Anatomy a lot recently, so like there's a lot of sexual undertones to all these characters. Is everybody fucking? I can't
dude, I haven't
tell.
watched any Grey's Anatomy, and I got a similar
Yeah.
vibe where I'm just like, I don't know. We just like, I feel like everyone in
There's
Ravnica just needs a bit of a release after a
mhm.
war against the evil robots. They're
Yeah,
all
that's
taking it out on each other. Like, sometimes maybe you just need to let that out.
Honestly, I do feel bad that like Magic is not at a point where it is so popular that there are like porn parodies of these stories, because like I feel like there's a million of those, and like fan fiction does that itself, but like the fact that Magic is the best card game ever and it doesn't have any of
Yeah,
this
where's the magic porn,
ridiculous,
guys?
God damn it, what's going on? Come on. Um, I'm sure after this, we're gonna get some Massacre Girl Judith action somewhere.
Yeah.
Um, God, so God, this episode is.
We really went off the rails.
All right, it's episode 10, Roots of Decay. Jeff, oh, we're getting into this. So, uh, Kaya is learning how to get out of the branches of the Vitugazi, and because Oba is pulling on Matt Celestia and the World Soul of Ravnica, Kaya decides that she's going to pull from what she knows, which is the Blind Eternities, which is
Which
essentially
is like, yeah,
everything
the
else.
it's like
Space.
Oba's using the power of the world and Kaya's
Mhm.
using the power of the universe.
Yeah, just like Space Kaya comes in,
Yeah.
and she ends up doing it and being able to walk through whatever she wants now because she has the power of the Blind Eternities. It's crazy.
Yeah.
Um, she gets out of that, walks up to Oba essentially, and then finds like a when she find like a caution tape.
So the walking up part I thought was kind of cool. Basically, she's like she calls upon the power of blind attorneys to get out of because she's about to get power slammed into
Hmm.
the she's gonna die and she can't use her ghost form. And she finally calls into this power to use her ghost form and slip out of this hold that Oba had on her. Oba's pissed and then like refocuses. She's like, I can't pull that trick again.
Hmm.
And so she starts charging towards Oba. And what happens now is there are some dead vines that appear as ghosts that can catch her when she's in her ghost form. And there are real vines that can catch her when she's not in her ghost form. So she has to
Hmm.
do like a dance where she's ghosting through the real vines and being real through the ghost vines.
Right.
So she gets caught by a ghost vine and she's like, oh, clever. And then she's like, all right. I forget which planeswalker said something about dance.
It
Oh,
was
Kaito.
Kaito.
Yeah, yeah. And so she has to like dance through the real vines and the ghost vines, and she manages to do that and get all the way
Hmm.
to Oba.
Yeah, Kaito said something to her when she was on. I think it was during the fire scene stuff. I don't. It was not because she wasn't on Kamigawa, but he said that you need to walk in between the raindrops,
Right.
basically, to not get wet. And so that's what she's trying to do. And then she ends up getting like caution tape that the detectives have, and she's trying to bind Oba's hands, but she needs help from another person. And at this moment, she thinks that she sees Teysa. But then what really happens is that Atrada stands up and helps her pull the tape
Because
around.
everyone else is bound in
Bound.
roots. They can't help.
Yeah.
And one person who is not bound in roots is Atrada because she's dead.
Well, we thought she was
Or
dead.
is she? She stands
Classic.
up and grabs the other half of whatever they need and
Binds her hands. And then Teysa uses her ghost form powers to use the ghost branches to then go around Oba as well. So she's double bound.
yeah,
And Jeff, what's
Kaya,
our
right?
what did I say? Teysa?
Yeah.
Kaya. Kaya uses the ghost stuff. And she's double bound. Jeff, what's our story spotlight?
Makeshift binding, tuna white for an enchantment. When ETB exile target creature an opponent controls until it leaves the battlefield. You gain 2 life.
Hmm. And there we have it. We don't need to kill our enemies. We just need to bind them up and give them to the Azorius. Because, of course, the Azorius will never, ever lose them.
That,
However,
have you looked at the art for this card? Just real
yeah.
quick. See the bottom right corner?
Oh, okay. All right. There's definitely looks like a Tesa in the bottom right
Yeah, it's
corner.
Ghost Tesa helping out with this binding.
Hmm. Spoiler alert. God, Jeff.
Well, I was
Jeez.
gonna say we could wait, but yeah.
Um, so we have now bound up Oba. The massacre is over. Everybody is okay except for Tolsmir.
Yeah,
Um,
kind of got
yeah.
fucked
And
up.
Etrata got fucked up, but she survives.
So do we think Etrata took that to pretend she could be dead
No, no,
to
there's
help
no
out
way.
later?
There's
Like
no way.
to me that makes more sense than her charging in to save the random cruel centaur's
I
life.
mean, like, I don't remember her trying to stop him. I just remember her getting stabbed. So I,
That's for sure what happened.
I believe you. Um,
So like each is equal. Like I'm tempted to say she just wanted to pretend she was dead and like thought that might come in handy at some point because
mhm,
oh, Proft is like upset the whole time.
mhm.
Basically, he's there like getting encased in vines, but over Atrata's dead body, being upset because they became quite close over the time. And when this all over, he says, "Were you just pretending to be dead the whole time?" to her, and
Right.
she basically confirms that she was, and she was kind of totally fine.
Yeah. I don't know.
So was she just like honing her assassin instincts to be like, it's going to be useful to
To be dead at some
pretend to be
point.
dead in this situation?
Maybe. On what's hard is that I was hoping that she was dead the whole time because
Yeah.
I thought that that would be a really good story beat, and then
I too
Proft.
was like, oh, but I was also like, why is she sacrificing herself for this guy? That doesn't make any
It
sense.
doesn't make any
That's
sense.
not the way to go.
Also now, okay, so now Oba is like encased in whatever, but the three of them, there's this weird thing where like when we know that Oba is the culprit, she says, "Oh well, you can't arrest me because you can't take my sisters because they're innocent, and that's part of the fucking rules on Ravnica." Blah blah blah.
Hey, rules on
Yeah,
Ravnica.
and so they're like, "Oh
Not like
right,
we house the guild pact or
yeah,
anything. You
it's
could totally change
ridiculous."
it.
Um, so basically, Oba's saying you can't ever imprison me, and then they all decide to hibernate together to like think about what they've done. So they go to timeout, and
Basically, what they say is like, hey, if Matt Selesnya doesn't want us anymore, then you'll never see us again.
mhm,
If Matt Selesnya forgives our sins, then all
we'll
is
be here.
well. And the rest of Ravnica's like, I don't know if I agree with
I don't think that's right.
that. Yeah.
And so they're
Because
gonna,
you were the speaker to Matt Selesnya,
yeah,
so
but now they're gonna have Amara Tandris be the speaker while they're
yeah,
gone.
right.
So the killer does not get revenge or avenged. The killer is just fucking in a coma right now,
But I thought it
talking
was
to.
interesting that like once she was defeated, the other sisters woke up and then they
Mhm.
did the like knock our sister out thing that the sister did to
Right,
them. Like, I
sure,
guess they could just like knock each other out at will.
yeah, that's a,
That is not a power you should give to siblings.
no, definitely not. Um, Crazy, weird. Uh, we also have a cute moment with Kaya and Kellen as they didn't know that each other was alive. Essentially,
Yeah,
um, shows that they love each other or whatever.
yeah.
Um, let's skip forward. We can do overarching stuff when we get to the end. But story spotlight number 30 is call a surprise witness. So Kaya goes to Tace's funeral, and spoiler alert, Jeff, Tace's alive as a ghost. So she's dead.
Whoa, I was
She's
like, she's
dead.
alive? I misread that. I thought
Sorry,
she was dead.
she's dead as a ghost.
Yeah.
She comes to her own funeral, which is a pretty badass move, and surprises Kaya to be like, "What up, bitch? I'm here." And then Kaya's like, "Oh, were you at the battle?" And Tace is like, "Of course I was. I've been hanging out with you the whole time. I just didn't show my face.
Yeah.
I wasn't ready to show everybody what I looked like. It was kind of embarrassing. You can see right through me, but now I'm good. Now you can see me.
Yeah. And then she's basically like, you know what? I'm still gonna run the Orzhov because
Yeah, I'm a
I'm still the right choice.
It's like you are the right choice, but you're a ghost now. To be fair, I don't think that ghosts running a human organization is smart because your ideas, like, you'll just be like, you'll fucking die, and then you're a ghost, and it doesn't
Yeah.
matter.
You'll be
Like,
like, "Oh, we're running out of food. Oh no."
oh no, oh boo hoo, who cares?
Yeah.
Like, and so I don't think it's a good idea that a ghost run a human organization,
Yeah.
but
I have
what am
strong opinions about this as
yeah,
well. That's why I never let a ghost run my,
house.
yeah,
I don't know.
country.
Country?
That's all
Sure.
true.
Totally.
Never vote for a
Um,
ghost.
I'll never vote for a ghost. Also, while we're here, call a surprise witness as 1 and a white for a sorcery. Return target creature card with mana value 3 or less from your graveyard to the battlefield. Put a flying counter on it. It's a spirit in addition to its other
It's so
types.
funny to watch them experiment because they've just been experimenting with this kind of effect. Where
There's
like
so many
every set has
times.
something like this, different win
Yeah.
costs and different bonuses and different like yeah.
I
They're gonna
do.
land on the right one because I've seen them do this in the past.
Yeah, as they're just like waiting to find it. Um, I do like that the Tesa in the set is 3 mana or less, so it does fit
Right.
perfectly with this card.
Yeah.
Because that would be a huge flavor
Yeah,
fail.
they had to.
Yeah, it'd be pretty shit. So Jeff, this is the end of our story.
Yeah.
Um, it has been a long ride. Holy moly! But
Quick note, do you because you have it here in your notes, I think it's
mhm,
worth it. They say they don't know where Judith or Lazav are.
mhm,
Um, but Etrata basically says to Proft saying, "Hey, I'm gonna need you to hire me as like we're gonna work together now because my guild is disbanded because Lazav is dead." And Proft is like, "I will hire you, but stop talking the bullshit about Lazav being dead because we both know that's wrong."
mhm.
And then Estrada's like, like, oopsies. Yeah. Like, yes, Lazav is not dead. Um, and then the Judah thing is like, I think Massacre Girl killed her. Um, so there's those sort of,
Yeah.
they never say it, but I mean, we know
So
Lazav is alive because he's a card in the set. But
yes. So I don't think that Judith died. I think that we're gonna get a whole story arc with more Judith stuff in the future.
I mean, maybe depends whether people prefer Massacre Girl or Judith as a
I
character, I
think they
guess.
love them both.
So
The
they're gonna pull the whole bullshit of like they both survived the encounter.
yes. Yeah.
Yeah, you're probably right.
It was such a small encounter that like it doesn't really even
See,
seem
I'm
like it
just so
was
mad at
Judith.
Judith for the card they printed after that. I'm like, yeah,
Probably.
Judith, get her out of here. Judith's dead.
We're gonna talk about that next week. But
Yeah.
I did want to bring up one thing with Lazav, which is the Twitter stylings of what's happening. And
Okay.
so Twitter has decided that Lazav was actually in the story the whole time.
See
And
the
one
one
of
who was the mind thief? No. Oh, because he can change faces.
yes.
Okay, right.
So this isn't even a crazy thing, but Twitter has talked about how they think that Lazav might be this character Ezram,
Hmm.
who our author has mentioned multiple times seems to fit in spaces that they don't think that that archon would be able to fit into, and that Lazav is able to do those types of things and be able to walk into spaces. So,
Fuck. I feel like that's definitely right.
and that Lazav has been missing for so long and people don't know where they are. Maybe they could be just a detective in the agency. Um, could be kind of interesting if that's actually
I feel like
true.
that's definitely right now that you've laid that out like that because they do mention that too many
Too
times.
many times, right?
Yeah.
This isn't something I came up with. I saw other people talk about it. But and they do explicitly talk about how Lazav is just missing. So it
Yeah, they
could
mentioned Lazav being missing a few times, and they mentioned Ezra and
Ezra just
sort
being
of they
places.
even
How
start
did he
with
even
him kind
fit
of
there?
like surging to power really quickly. And
Mm-hmm. So, and not really understanding how, just like every space he just happens to be in, just seems like he can't be there.
right.
Um, the thing is that both Ezram and Lazov have cards in the set, so it's
There was
yeah,
also like
I don't
when
know.
Zagana was first killed, Ezram was like, I can't go in there to investigate, but I will stand guard because it
Hmm.
was a coat room.
Yeah,
Like that could be acting.
acting or
Or that
what
was a real
versions, and maybe
Ezram.
there were fake Ezrams along the way. We don't know. Lazov is a really interesting character because
I feel
Lazov
like
could
that
be
makes more
anybody,
sense. There's a real Ezram, and then
and
Lazav
Lazov,
is Ezram later, and that's why they both have cards.
or there's like a Lazov. Maybe there's a Lazov like Judith. Maybe there's a Lazov anything. I don't know.
Maybe there's a Lazav Oba.
Maybe. Um, maybe the ghost Tesa is actually Lazov.
Now I'm wondering if Oba was selected as the killer purely because it's really difficult for that to be Lazav.
Maybe.
Like
That's probably true because they're like, there's no way that Lazov could be like
a
all of
middle
them.
sister of the Tristani,
Yeah,
right?
or just like all of Tristani, like can't do all three at the same time. It seems like an interesting idea. So there are still mysteries afoot in our story, and it might be a long time till we figure out the answers to some of these. But
Well, apparently the clues from this set, if you figure
that's
them all
true.
out,
Oh, right.
they give you a hint about the future story.
Right. So sorry. There are 12 or 13 clues that are on a website. If the community as a whole can answer all of them, we get one more story. So we might have to talk about that story in the future because it might give us information that's really important to all the questions we have
All I
right
know is
now.
it's very important and central about Cult Guild Mage.
Yes. Yes, it's definitely Cult Guild Mage is the most important card.
Yeah.
Um, but going into our final thoughts for the story, Jeff,
Yeah.
I just wanted to say that I think that this is probably the best story that we've done. Like of all the Drunken Vorthoses we have had, I like this one the most. It is easily because it's the smallest story as far as scale, as well as the longest story as far
Yeah.
as like length.
I think a lot of that was great. I had to suspend my belief a little bit in like this crazy supernatural realm where people kill each other all the time. Like there's literally a story where somebody gets murdered and it's a huge intrigue, but this is also the same world where there's a famous assassin. Like
That's true.
either
But this is an
it,
important person, right?
either murder and death is like a big deal or it's not, and like magic is kind of like people die all the time, people get murdered all like that's just how it goes to make the story move. But I understood that like we got to suspend our disbelief of that part to enjoy the murder mystery. And
Mm-hmm.
I think I would have had I not accidentally tuned in to the spoiler. I wanted to see some new cards and I got told exactly what happens in the story. Um, I think it was still worth reading to get the further details and all that stuff. Um, and I think I agree. The story was good and it was better than usual, probably because there's more time to elaborate. And
Mm-hmm.
like you said, I also really liked, like we called out before, a lot of the small things the writer did. I think were
Mm-hmm.
really great to just call attention to certain things or not call attention to certain things. There's one thing I wanted to end with, and I read the story after knowing who the killer was, and you read the story before. So I don't know if you remember this or not, but this was a little. This might piss you off.
Okay.
So let's see. Before Ansrag gets released from
Hmm.
his prison. Like literally right before that, Kaya and Kellen are in the agency before all hell breaks loose. Literally the words right before
It happens.
all hell breaks loose is Kellen speaking to Kaya, and he says, "Hey Kaya, do you think maybe Tristani?" And that's when all hell breaks loose.
I Well, sorry. Go ahead. Tell your thoughts first.
Did Kellen figure it out first just to be that annoying?
I don't think that's annoying. I think that's great, actually.
You like that?
I do like that. And I like that they would put it in such a because I do remember that moment, but I don't remember it being like a because I was so not even Johnny wasn't even like a suspect. I was just like wondering if he was saying more about whatever. So it never felt like Kellen was on the hunt or whatever of Tristani. But the fact that they were able to add that as a little bit of a piece in the story, I like. But if Kellen happened to figure it out before Proft or be on that trail, that's also fine. Whatever.
I don't know. It's a little too much like Kellen is always like,
Always amazing.
yeah, this story was to me was a little too much Kellen. Like the
It
last
was.
one did a good job of being not a lot of Kellen. And this one was like, this is a lot of Kellen. And so
I.
when he actually was the first one to figure out who the killer was,
Mhm.
I was like, come on, it's Kellen that solves the case. Like, this is the wrong way to do this. Like, Kellen just goes plane to plane, being the
It being the
best all the
best.
time.
I think that it would be interesting to hear the rest of that sentence to know whether he was actually really on it or not. Obviously, they're probably trying to show that he's like the best because he's our main character for the next whatever 2 years.
Right.
Which knowing that the Kellen arc is a fucking arc sucks. Like it just sucks. He's just
But I guess I had my hopes up from the last story where it was like, we know Kellen is a Kellen arc, but he's just kind of there.
yeah. Well,
This
we
one was
know
like, oh man, he actually solved the case.
he's also a main story character. Also, the next story we know he's going to be a main character because that's when he meets his dad and whatever
As we do know, Oko is
his
the
dad.
Outlaws of Thunder Junction.
So it's just like, yes, I would have liked. It would have been more interesting if Kellen was literally the messenger who hands off
Right.
the paper, and he's just there earlier in his career, you know. But the fact that he's like best friends with Taysa is just like, and like now they're gonna
Kaya.
fuck or whatever, or Kaya. God, it's so easy to mix up those names. I don't know why it is, but like Kaya and Taysa just feel like the same name to me. But he's best friends with Kaya, and like, are they gonna fuck? Like, is there like a it
What if she just goes ghost form mid bang?
I mean, that would be, yeah, that would be super weird. Like he just like misses her altogether. But like, I mean, I don't know. Maybe her like I could see because she had mentioned how she wants Kellen to come to like call time, and she would the heroing off of both Kellen and
And
Tyvar
Tyvar,
would be a
yeah.
lot. But like, I feel like Kaya would like that and would be a part of
It
it.
sounds like she's kind of down with that.
Kind of seems
Yeah.
like a threesome that we're looking forward to in
Yeah.
the future. Um, in our new
Yeah.
porn, I guess we're making.
Yeah.
I don't
I
know.
mean, come on, guys. The magic porn writes itself. Let's
Yeah,
go.
this has been like the first drunken Vorthos has got on this train. Oh god! But anyway,
And it's
actually,
pissed me off knowing that Kellen was the first to the answer.
all right. I didn't. I It doesn't bother me that much. I guess it's just kind of like, yeah, of course they're gonna do something with him and blah 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 blah. Anyway, that was a beast.
Yeah, man. 10 episodes, a lot of episodes.
10 episodes is a lot. 2 beer breaks. I didn't think we are going to have that many.
Yeah.
But let's get to last call and let's finish this thing out. Hacker Shore Gold, Muncher Gold. Let's not even talk about the ratings. Well, we know this is a silver beer, but like, where does this
Yeah.
compare to other ones?
Um, it was fine. I don't know. Like,
Yeah,
I would put this lower than some of the, like I think I put
the
Stella
best.
above this and stuff
Stella's
like
above
that.
this.
But I'm putting this above, the
Yeah, this is better than.
Sapporos of the world.
Yeah, it's better than Sapporo. It's better than Coors. It's better than Budweiser.
Yeah.
Um, I think I might be in like Heineken and it might be in a neck and neck
Yeah,
ish.
I could see that sort of
So maybe
Heineken
we're doing
level.
like silver two, silver one kind of
Yeah.
world.
It's no Keller
Um,
beer.
it's definitely no Keller beer, and it holds the name Hacker Shore, but Keller beer's just leaps and bounds better than this.
Yes. Much better.
Um, however,
But this is totally drinkable, so to speak.
totally
Yeah.
drinkable. If I had 2 more, they would be in my belly already. Like,
That's right.
so, so I'll probably say silver one. Then it's a good silver
Yeah.
one beer, but
Yeah,
not
silver ones.
yeah, not jumping above anything else. Let's go to last call. You can always find us at Arena Regulars on Twitter and Instagram.
You can even find us on Arena itself under the username Arena Regulars Podcast.
If you want to talk to me personally, you can find me at Zulberg. That is ZULBERG on Twitter and Instagram and Discord. Also, you can find me on Twitch. That is regular_Zach, Monday through Wednesday from 10 to 2. But Jeff, where can they find you?
Best place to find me is on our Discord channel. I go by Regular Jeff, and the link for that should be in the show notes.
It is. Come check us out. Send us your deck lists or just literally whatever you want to talk about. It's fun to have people in Discord. Follow us on Spotify. Leave us a review there. Go to Apple iTunes, all that stuff. Go to YouTube. That is super helpful. But most importantly, if you could just tell your friends you like our show, give them our name, and have them listen to us. That is the most helpful resource. And we would love to grow the podcast. This has been the Arena Regulars.
Reminding you that Kaya is yearning for a threesome with Kellen and Tyvar.
Good night. All right, that's fine.